Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. On behalf of Yarra City Council, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people as the traditional owners and true sovereigns of the land now known as Yarra. We acknowledge their creator spirit Bunjil, their ancestors and their elders. We acknowledge the strength and resilience of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, who have never ceded sovereignty and retained their strong connections to family, clan and country despite the impacts of European invasion. We also acknowledge the significant contributions made by other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to life in Yarra. We pay our respects to all elders from all nations here today and to their elders past, present and future. Welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. In attendance tonight we have Councillor Jolly, Councillor Kanatzis, Councillor Mohammed, Councillor Crossland, myself Councillor Nguyen, Councillor Landis, Councillor Wade, Councillor Stone and Councillor O'Brien. I also have with me our CEO Sue. Sue, could you introduce the staff in attendance?
Good evening, Mayor. To my left, I have Mary Osman, the General Manager of City Sustainability and Strategy, Kerry McGrath, the General Manager of Community Strengthening. To my right, I have Wei Chen, the Acting General Manager of Corporate Services, Chris Levers, General Manager Infrastructure and Environment, and Brooke Colbert, General Manager Governance, Communications and Customer Service.
Thank you, CEO. I have no apologies for tonight and I have no leave of absence from councillors. I also have no announcements tonight, so the next part is declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors and staff, do you have any conflicts of interests to declare tonight?
I do, Mayor. Adventure Park, my daughter goes there, so I'll be stepping out for that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mohammed. Councillor Wade.
I understand there's a question about e-scooters tonight. If that happens, then I'll be declaring a conflict of interest for that, as has previously been disclosed to the CEO, and leaving the room.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else declaring a conflict of interest? Mr Thomas?
Yes, Mayor. Just want to declare a financial interest in Urbis Proprietary Limited, who are the applicant in the case of the Victoria Gardens planning application, and advise that my role in tonight's agenda has been entirely administrative and I've not played any role in the advice or recommendation in front of Council this evening.
Thank you. I also have a general conflict of interest for a question from tonight, the e-scooter question. It's the first question on the agenda. It's a general conflict of interest from another workplace that I've been at where I've been privy to this project. So I will be stepping out when that item comes up and the Deputy Mayor, Edward Crossland, will step in. The next part is confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting held on Tuesday the 14th of February 2023. Do I have a mover? Councillor Jolly. And a seconder? Councillor Stone. All those in favour? Carries unanimously. Thank you. The next part is question time. So it's now time for questions from members of the public who have registered. I will invite everyone who has registered to ask a question at this meeting in order of registration. When your turn comes, please come forward to the microphone, switch it on and state your name for the record. If you are here on behalf of a group, please explain the nature of that group and how you are able to speak on their behalf. We then ask that you direct your question to me. Ask the question that you have previously registered, including any background or context of the question that you would like to provide. You have 3 minutes to ask your question, and our first question tonight is from Shane. And it's a question on e-scooters, so at this point in time I will vacate my seat and declare a conflict of interest, and Councillor Wade will do the same. Shane, are you here? Oh, Shane.
Pardon me.
Over to you, Shane. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shane Harrick, and I am a member of the Disability Advisory Committee for the City of Yarra. I'm also chair of a charity called Accessible Beaches Australia. As you may notice, I am a person living with a disability, and I live in Richmond. As most people with disabilities will talk about lately, it's very difficult getting around our local area because of e-scooters blocking footpaths, people getting nearly run over by e-scooters. It's something that a lot of people with disabilities have been talking a lot about for quite some time. The Disability Advisory Committee voted on the October 2022 that the City of Yarra pause the e-scooter trial for the safety of people with disabilities and those that live in the community. I then spoke here on October 2022, that's 151 days ago, asking the elected members to take steps to pause the trial for the safety of people with disabilities and those in the community. At that meeting, Mary Osman, who is here today, came up to me and said that she'd like to organise a meeting with me in coming days to talk about these issues, and said that they're obviously something that we would like to work towards. 8 attempts were made to meet with Mary, and unfortunately I wasn't able to secure a meeting until the 24th of November, where Mary cancelled that meeting a few hours before. I then tried 5 other times to book a new meeting, and then Mary went on annual leave. Lee Barker responded to me on the 11th of January and offered me times for a meeting. A meeting was finally booked on the 20th of January, which was 88 days after I spoke at the last council meeting. After that meeting, Mary said she would get back to me in a few days on a few points, and that still has not happened. Mary had RSVP'd to our Disability Advisory Committee last week, but didn't turn up. Mary emailed me today, coincidentally several hours before this meeting. That email still does not answer the following points. Mary advised that e-scooter trials will soon come to a close. Mary has not addressed this in her response. No reporting of the trials has been provided or mentioned on either 3 locations. Mary has advised enforcement is another way to help with the issue. Mary seems to have failed to address the enforcement in her response as measures to help with these issues. Mary has advised that there are clauses that City of Yarra can exit the trial, and I've asked for information regarding that. Mary has not outlined any of the clauses in the trial contract, nor attempting to discover them. I asked what might trigger City of Yarra to exit the trial, and Mary has again not outlined the triggers to exit the trial. I requested a copy of terms of reference. That still has not been provided. I asked Mary if City of Yarra can do some communications around how to report e-scooter safety and issues, and this has not been outlined, and no information has been given around that. Lastly, from the meeting on the 20th of January, Mary advised that she would send an update on these items at the start of the new week. It has been 8 weeks since that meeting and still no response. It has been 6 months since our issues for people with disabilities has been raised. 24th of November, I met with Mayor Wade to talk about footpath issues. At the end of that meeting, I spoke to officers who told me about geo-footprinting and how the issues should be fixed.
Sorry, Shane. If you could try and wrap it up, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going a bit over time. So in summary, e-scooters affecting the safety and independence of people with disabilities, which has become very clear. Can the Council please explain why issues raised by people with disabilities are being ignored for almost half a year, and why the Department managing e-scooter trials will not respond to concerns raised by people with disabilities? Sorry for going over time.
Thank you, Shane, very much for your submission. If you could just press the button there for us. Thank you. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, I've just got a point of order before you give. It's not on this matter, but it's an important point of order. There's a bunch of people out the front of Richmond Town Hall who some have registered to speak, some want to come, and there are some seats not sat on here, and they've been locked out. Is there any possibility? I think we can fit a few more in here. It's a peaceful crowd. It's just it's a shame that they're locked outside. Is there any possibility you could consider that, please?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jolly. Ahead of tonight's meeting, anticipating a large crowd, we sought advice from our municipal building surveyor who unfortunately has advised that our room is at capacity this evening, and obviously we need to consider the well-being of all members of the community, staff and councillors who are here tonight. That said, I'm happy to go downstairs now and find anyone that's registered for that to speak at this meeting and ensure that they are admitted, because we have reserved places for them here in the room. Unfortunately, I won't be able to admit anyone that is not registered to speak tonight, and they'll have to make alternative arrangements to watch the meeting on the live stream. But I will go downstairs and seek to find anyone who had committed to speak tonight and ensure they're admitted to the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for that further clarity. Back to your question, Shane. Thank you very much for making your submission this evening. It's very much appreciated for the detailed submission you made. At this point in time, I am going to defer to Ms. Mary Osmond for a response on this matter.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I will outline by saying there were delays in responding to Shane's email, and I apologise and take full responsibility for that. I will, however, correct that there has been various engagements with both the DAC and the ACCC, and that has been occurring over the last 6 months. Council takes very seriously the concerns that have been raised by not only the DAC, the Disability Advisory Group, but a number of residents who have raised concerns with e-scooters within this municipality. Council has been raising this with the state government when we regularly meet with them, and we've also been trialling some geofencing around e-scooter parking in Gertrude Street, Smith Street and Bridge Road. So we are going to continue to engage on this topic with a number of concerned residents, and we will continue to have those conversations with the state government. At this stage, Councillor, there isn't much more that I can add to the response.
Thank you very much, Ms. Osmond, for your response. Shane, just to note as well, if there are further engagements with officers, I'm more than happy to attend, as I've indicated, outside of these chambers. At this point in time, we're just waiting for the 2 other councillors to return, and we will then get on to the next submitter. Thank you. If I could ask Fiona McGlade to please step up to the lectern, it would be much appreciated. We will come back to Fiona. In the interim, could we please ask that Lindy Uren please come to the lectern? And we'll just wait till the other councillors come in before you make your submission. Thank you.
Could I just ask if anyone has their phones on to please just put it on silent? Thank you. The next questioner we have is Lindy Uren.
Hello, Mayor. Thank you. I just want to know, mine's really easy. When will the councillors' expense going to be uploaded for October, December 2022, last year? Would be great to know.
Thank you, Lindy. Brooke Colbert, if you could help answer that question.
Thank you for your question, and through you, Mayor, the next councillor expense report will be published on our website by the end of this month. Arrangements for publications of these reports are set out in the councillor support policy, which requires that the reports be published by the end of the following quarter. The timeframe allows for reimbursements to be processed and accounts to be reconciled, so the quarterly reports are to be published in March, June, September and December. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. The next question I have is from Nancy Malloy.
Right to go? Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. My question, my name's Nancy Malloy. My question tonight is about safe, accessible pathways in laneways, and specifically about reconstruction of laneways, and why wouldn't accessible pathways automatically be included in these reconstructions? Just a bit of background. I've been writing to council for about 8 years, asking if I could have a safe pathway for my mobility scooter in the laneway behind my apartment. Originally, the reason was heritage issues, and then it was it's too expensive, and now it's the council feels the laneway is in good repair, so they can't help me. And since then, over the years, there's been a huge amount of reconstruction in the streets and in the lanes. And every time the reconstruction work gets near my apartment, I send a letter saying, hey guys, this is happening. Do you think you could include my request in the works? And the answer is always, unfortunately, the laneway is in good repair. So in more recent times, in the street located to the eastern end of the laneway I live in, there was pretty substantial lifting of blue stones, splitting them, relaying them, and the footpaths were ripped up. And so I wrote and said, hi there, this is just 75 metres from my back door. Do you think you could help? And the answer was the same. More recently, there's a massive reconstruction of a laneway on the eastern border of my apartment building. So I wrote again and said, do you think, anything can be done? Because this laneway connects with mine, which is about 50 metres from my back door. So I sent that letter in January, and I think early last week I received a response saying that, unfortunately, because your laneway is in good repair, we can't help. And then they went on to say that we conducted a review of your section of the lane, and we've calculated that work on your lane isn't due till 2043 or possibly 53, and also we can't guarantee we could actually put in the safe path for your mobility scooter. But by then I won't need it, and nor will my mobility scooter probably. But what concerned me more was that they went on to say that a decision's been made that with the major reconstruction of the laneway, that it's been decided that there's no need for an accessible path. And that just totally gobsmacked me, because in that laneway there's a number of apartments, and over COVID, with people working from home, people have begun to put gates in their fences, and there's doors on the walls of the laneway. So people are utilising the laneway. It's a thoroughfare for people to cut through to other streets in the area. And it just seemed very surprising. And there's also a huge amount of land that's been cleared, and it looks like they're building new apartments or office suites, and they also are facing onto the lane. And the other thing is that there's a park in the laneway, and there's a gate in the laneway for people to access the park from the lane. And council's actually remodelling that park, and there was a pamphlet dropped last year asking people to comment on the design and to provide feedback. And so I wrote back and said, could it be disabled friendly? And also, could you make sure that there's a safe pathway in the lane that's going to be reconstructed, so that I can actually get in through the gate into the park. So I just felt that in the response there was just a total disregard for accessibility issues and disrespect really for disability.
Thank you, Nancy. I think the best... So, Mr. Levers, are you in the best position to answer that question?
Yes, Mayor, I am. Thank you. Through you, Mayor, and hi, Mr. Molloy. And we have had some communication on this recently and in the past. Council has many laneways, about 85 kilometres of laneways across the city, and officers do inspect and review those laneways, and they will refurbish and reconstruct laneways where they're in need. As you mentioned, officers have been out recently to have another look at the laneway you're referring to. They've found no defects and indicated that the laneway has a practical life of 20 or 30 more years based on the current condition. Council does prioritise accessibility for new developments and where lanes provide primary access. In the building you're referring to, primary access is provided from another street which provides disability accessibility. So just to the works that you've referred to that are happening nearby, it is true there are laneway works nearby, and those works commenced in January of this year. They should be completed by the end of this month, but having works done to a laneway nearby doesn't change Council's heritage materials policy, which requires that we replace bluestone with bluestone, nor does it affect the cost of those works. And the cost of the works to relay the laneway you're requesting would be in the order of $100,000, which Council has not budgeted for. So, Mayor, I hope that helps.
Can I respond?
I
won't be long.
Mr. Levers has provided you with an answer. If you do have another question, we can take it on notice, or you can send it through to us and we can get you some further advice. So the next person I have is John Gradich, who I think is from the Alphington Bowls Club.
Mayor, good evening. My name's John Grattage. I'm the Secretary of the Alphington Bowls Club. The Alphington Bowls Club supports the proposed full redevelopment of the club in Alphington Park, provided adequate temporary accommodation is provided during the building period for the club to remain fully operational during that period. Is the Council also aware that the club does have an alternative progressive building refurbishment plan, as discussed with council officers, prepared by the club's architects and estimated to cost a lesser amount of around $2 million, should the full demolition and redevelopment proposal not be possible?
Thank you, John. I think Mr. Levers, you're best placed to answer that question.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, John, for the question. Yeah, I understand officers have been in consultation with the club in relation to temporary facilities, and it's been agreed that temporary facilities would be provided during the reconstruction if that goes ahead. I'm not aware of a club proposal to redevelop the facility for a lesser amount, or whether that plan meets the brief for the refurbishment based on the spatial requirements, design requirements and council facility requirements. But of course we'd be happy to look at that. So if you would like to submit that, we'll happily take a look at it. I would say officers wouldn't normally recommend funding for construction of a project until design has been developed. We've had town planning approval and building approvals for the design and had it properly costed. So at this point we wouldn't be in a position to recommend funding it at that scope, but we'd be certainly more than willing to have a look at the plan and talk to the club about the opportunity there.
The purpose of the question is to make sure you are aware that there is a club proposal of this nature.
Through the Mayor, if that proposal is submitted to me, we'll take a look at it ASAP.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, John. The next person I have is Fiona McGlade.
How's that? Okay. Hello, good evening everyone. I'm Fiona McGlade. I was here last month and I'm a medical practitioner and I'm a resident of Langridge Ward, and I came to ask the council about inquiring about gas policy, and as I'd heard nothing at the time of booking, I booked in again. I can say that I have since had a reply from Mary Osmond, and so thank you for that, but I think I would still like to submit a question. I would also like to say apologies for coming late to the meeting, but it's the second time I've been informed that the meeting is at 7 p.m. rather than 6:30, and that's on your official correspondence to me in the emails, so I just perhaps would like you to make note of that. So I would like to refer to the Yarra Climate Emergency Plan on your website, as you've declared, to achieve zero net emissions across the entire Yarra community by 2030. And I would like to say that the proximity of that date terrifies me, but it also heartens me, because that is exactly the date that we need to keep in mind if we are to achieve any action on climate. I'd like to say that from my work window, I've observed construction for the past 3 years of the Mother Teresa building at the ACU, which has been a huge build for that university, and it's close to reaching completion. And I've spoken to the planning team of that university, and they have said that, to their regret, yes, they do have gas. It's a small amount, approximately 6%, but they would have preferred to have not had gas, but the planning and also appliances and things at the time really sort of prevented them from having a complete electric build. But they are very committed to actually to net zero, and so before their building is even completed, they are actually planning for a retrofit in the future to remove gas and to have it 100% electric by 2030. And that does strike me as being somewhat of a waste of time, money and opportunity for that organisation. But I applaud them for doing it, and I don't expect that that level of commitment would be also granted by other organisations or developers who are doing buildings at this current time. So I'd just like to say, as Victorian, I feel that we've had a number done on us by the gas companies. We have been raised and indoctrinated to believe that gas is good, that it's clean, that it's safe, that it's cheap and that it's natural. And I would say that one of those descriptors is in fact accurate, that being natural to the same degree as a coal mine. As a medical practitioner, I would like to say that gas appliances are unsafe. They're responsible for 15% of the burden and 30% of the increased risk of childhood asthma. My own son, as a young child, suffered with asthma when we lived in a drafty...
Sorry, Fiona, could you just clarify what your question is for us tonight?
I am getting there? Okay. Okay, gas is unsafe. The increased asthma, carbon monoxide poisoning, tragically deaths in Victoria, fugitive emissions of gas account for approximately 10% of the production of gas, and that methane has 80 times the heat storing capacity of carbon dioxide. So every bit of methane we release is doing a major contribution to climate change. I can say rising prices is also obviously a factor. These are responsible for health inequities when people will be forced to live in these out-of-date buildings, and for also energy poverty when these same people...
Thank you, Fiona. Sorry, I'm just trying to see what your question is and how we can help.
The question is that I'm aware that there's something of a pause, that it seems to have stalled in Yarra and we seem to be stuck. I'm aware that there's a gas substitution pathway. Unfortunately, it does not appear to have any urgency or a time limit to it, and I don't hear...
Point of order. We've got a very long schedule.
Okay. When it's stuck, I am feeling that somehow it's not a matter of knowledge, it's not a matter of policies. I've seen what you have on your website. I've read your own policies. I've also seen other places, particularly the City of Melbourne, that are moving ahead.
Sorry, Fiona.
And so is it a process that's holding up this matter, and will the council be able to advance on this issue, and if so, how, and will it do it in a timely way?
Okay, thank you, Fiona.
Is there a response?
I think it's a slightly different question to what we have registered, but I will just check with Ms Osmond to see if you have an answer. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, thank you, Fiona. We We have a planning scheme amendment, so the pause is actually with the state government at the moment. We have a zero carbon development planning scheme amendment, which has been supported by a number of other municipalities within Victoria. We are waiting on approval from the Minister to allow us to exhibit that amendment. If that amendment is successful, it will stop gas connections in new buildings. Irrespective of that, as outlined last time, we are advocating to numbers of developments when they are lodging new applications for significant buildings to not have gas connections, and we're having a lot of success with that. The building that you're talking about is the new university building on Victoria Parade. That proposal came through in its approvals 5 or 6 years ago. It probably predates the trend to be moving towards gas-free connections, but it is a positive step forward that the university has outlined to you, that they are looking at removing gas from their buildings. They are also building another building on the corner of Brunswick and Victoria Street, and hopefully that too will be gas-free. But we will continue to advocate to the state government for our planning scheme amendment.
Thank you, Ms Osmond, and thank you, Fiona. So that includes question time. The next item to go through is council business reports. So this will be an opportunity for council to hear from the community, everyone who is here today. I will invite everyone who has registered to address the council in order of registration. When your turn comes, please switch on your microphone and state your name for the record. If you are speaking on behalf of an organisation or a group, please explain the nature of the group and how you are able to speak on their behalf. We then ask that you direct your statement to me, confine your submission to the subject under consideration. Note that questions during this section will be taken as comment, and please avoid repeating previous submitters where possible. The first item tonight is 7.1, which is the separation of waste charges. Councillors, would you like a report for this item? Okay. Can I please have a report, Ms Hui Chen?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor. Can everyone hear me? Sorry. This report recommends that Council joins other 78 councils and separate waste and cycling cost fund general rates. It further recommends that Council implement a separate rate for a public waste service for all rateable properties and curbside waste service for those properties receiving a curbside waste service. The general rates will be reduced by the same amount to ensure that the total revenue is within the rate cap. In future years, waste service charges would not be subject to the rate cap. However, as it is for cost recovery only, it is capped by the cost of providing waste and recycling services. This approach is aimed at ensuring Council's financial positions does not further deteriorate. Long-term financial sustainability is important if Council is to continue to deliver the services and programs expected by the community. It is also important that community assets are maintained. Council's financial challenges are not new. As the Municipal Minister noted, the need to take action to place the Council's finances on a sound footing. One of the critical roles of councillors is to stewards of the continued viability of the municipality to which they were elected. The current Yarra councillors have this responsibility, notwithstanding the fact that it is a decision taken or not taken over many years which led to the current poor state of the Council's finances. As the review of the Council's financial sustainability demonstrated, those decisions can no longer be put off to the distant future. Financial sustainability is not unique to Yarra. Like all other councils across Victoria, we are facing challenges with raising cost pressures, rate capping and cost shifting, coped with unprecedented growth and increasing pressure and demand on our services. Cost shifting is another significant issue impacting the financial sustainability of Victorian councils. One of the most significant cost shifting examples is waste services. While the state's efforts to address systematic issues with the waste and recycling system and support the transition to a circular economy are strongly supported, The reality is the cost of the reforms will have a direct and significant impact on all Victorian local governments. In addition to the mandated service changes, all Victorian councils have also been impacted by significant increases in cost on state landfill levy and logistic contracts and market vulnerability. Consequently, the cost of waste and recycling continue to outpace the recap, and the rising cost of waste service is one of the key risks to councils' future financial sustainability. Every council in Victoria shares these challenges. All other councils in Victoria have taken this into consideration of their financial future and have either separated or made the decision to separate the waste charges, irrespective of their financial circumstances. Yarra is the last council in Victoria to make this decision. Having made this recommendation, I would like to point out that this is not the single solution to our financial challenges. Work to meet these challenges will need to be ongoing and require constant attention by Council. There is no single solution. Rather, a holistic approach will be required. This work has already started, as demonstrated in our Q2 financial report. We have gone through detailed reviews exercise in our media budget review for tight budget control. In addition, the preparation of a long-term financial sustainability strategy is underway, which aims to provide Council with guidance for the long-term sustainability management of its resources. As mentioned in the report, the strategy will seek to articulate the challenges and opportunities for Council and to identify options to ensure long-term financial sustainability, including both systematic and strategic reforms. Lastly, I would like to clarify that this report does not make any recommendations in relation to changes to current waste and recycling waste service levels or changes to the frequency of bin collections for the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We will now go to submitters, so then councillors can have an opportunity to ask questions from officers. We have a large number of submitters here tonight, and it's really important that everyone has an opportunity to have their say. So please stay within your 2 minutes. I will invite 2 submitters at a time. If your name is called out first, please head to the mic. And if I call your name second, please line up so that we can get to you straight after. Our first speaker for this evening is Bob House, and after that we have Birkin Errol. Bob, if you're here, please make your way to the front. And after Bob, we have Birkin Errol. Okay. I will then move to Fiona Lang. And after Fiona Lang, I have Leslie Jeffrey. After Jeffrey, I have David Warwick. So if you have heard your name, please make your way to the front. Thank you. Fiona, I'll leave it with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I've been a ratepayer and lived and worked in Yarra for over 20 years. This is my first council meeting. Here behind me are all the people that have probably joined for the first time as well to want to comment on this bin tax. A couple of things in the report that really concern me is the PR spin and the use of incorrect language. That report was supposed to be giving options to people. It's not an option. You've basically just said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to separate the bins and we're going to have that charge, without any reference to any other things that you should be doing. What you should be doing is having a look at the waste that this council perpetrates. You should look at your... Council needs to stay within its means. Its means are our rates that we give to you. So the priority for a council is to clean up the rubbish and the recycling. That's what councils were initially designed to do. So all your other priorities that you want to implement, they come secondary to having a proper waste facility to provide a clean and safe environment for Yarra. What I would like to... A couple of other things that I'd like to say is that, apart from the salaries, you can have a little look at not spending your money on banana statues. That'd be a good one. And painting on the roads to provide a shared environment for cars and people and bikes. That's never going to work. So, all in all, we've had a number of questions already asked here showing that the council is inefficient and ineffective in what they do. A number of those questions just related purely to people not getting back, not providing good answers. So what I want to do is I want the council to have a good look at themselves and clean up your act, or you can expect to be cleaned out at the next election.
Thank you. I have Leslie Jeffrey. Leslie Jeffrey, if you're here, please make your way forward. After that, I have David Warwick. And if David's not here, we can go to Patrick Hills. And after Patrick Hills, we have Peter Rassos. Okay, so the next person I have is Kelly Simpson. And then Carolyn Harvey.
I'm Peter Rassos.
Oh, Peter Rassos?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Sorry.
Yes,
Okay.
if you, yeah.
I would like to thank all the people in attendance tonight for taking their valuable time from a busy and stressful lifestyle. Approximately 52% of the people of the City of Yarra who rent properties in the area will be impacted by the extra rate cost. All of us in the room behind me will be impacted by the rate costs. Considering we are facing increased costs from all sectors, food, shelter, electricity and gas, it's inappropriate for any organisation to increase costs, considering that this organisation, being the councillors, for us, is being funded and paid for by the good people in this room. You're voted in. Representation should always be for the good of us. It's obvious that you're not very good with running a financial operation when you come looking for more money from us. It's time that we look into your operations with engaging in forensic accountancy. Your operating cost doesn't fully represent our expectations. Your layers of senior bureaucrats doesn't represent other operating councils. With the amount of development which has been approved and the additional income from rates, etc., we should be reaping the benefits of surplus. You are here in front of the people who pay your bills, and to ask us for more money on top of that to cut our bin services by half when overfull bins and filth on the streets are really too obvious. And some of these finishes in the Yarra. It goes into the Yarra. Where are your green credentials? I personally have contacted COY and have over 200 references of call-outs and pickups of rubbish bins, overflowing bins, cardboard, dump rubbish, which is not against the law in the City of Yarra. Where are your green credentials? Any reasonable person who's in charge of operating our interest and asking for the above would be considered in the corporate world as not fit for purpose.
Thank you, Peter.
We are not fools.
Peter,
I took 10 seconds because everyone else is coming up. You called my name out
So,
in 10
Peter,
seconds.
I do need to move on, unfortunately.
So we are not fools, and we thank God for that. That there are small...
Peter, I'm sorry that... Okay, thank you, Peter. The next... Okay. So can I just please ask members of the gallery to be respectful of submitters as they are at the mic? I think it's really important that we give everyone an opportunity to speak tonight, and we can only do that if everyone is respectful. We have Kelly Simpson, is that correct? Sorry, could you just give me your name? Caroline Harvey. So, Caroline, I'm just going to say the next person after you is David Boulding and then Elizabeth Honey after that. So, Caroline, I'll just leave it with you. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Mayor and fellow councillors. I'll keep it short. So, I read the agenda and the report and see how council have outlined ways to handle waste management costs and where we would not be worse off under these changes, and how there would be a similar amount of revenue collected by the charges. And I ask you, why do we bother to change something if there's not going to be a difference? I don't want to change. A lot of people don't want to change. But you want to change because you want to separate the bin charge, which it won't be under the cap, and in future these charges can be increased. Now, it's on public record how our council uses 83% of its revenue on wages, a lot compared to similarly sized councils, and that's our money paying your wages. And there's also how management costs have blown out to $10.6 million compared to Darebin, $7.4 million. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that could have gone to our waste management. And frivolous spending on air conditioning at Fitzroy Town Hall where there's nothing being done there, and money going to the golf course, all those sorts of things. So I want to say I'm opposed to the proposal by our council on changes to waste charges until our council changes its waste of our revenue on its wages, consultant wages and management costs.
David Baldwin, is that you? Thank you.
Yeah, David Baldwin. So thanks to the officers for, I think, was a pretty good report outlining all the problems, and also noting congratulations on that we seem to have the cheapest waste service in the state, as far as I could tell from the figures in that report. I don't know anymore. I mean, this is a pretty basic and sensible reform, I think. I could have asked for some better things, but I think this is pretty good for transparency, right? So it's really important to see the costs of the things that you want to reduce. Waste is different from almost all other council services because it's the curbside service is a private good. It's not a public good like libraries and streets and all that kind of thing. And also because of the environmental impact, we really want to reduce. So a lot of people have mentioned that as well. And it's a really important step to be transparent first about the costs, and then there will be incentives, like, for example, when we bring in FOGO, we can see options and cost them for their impact on the waste charge, and I think that will all be for the good. The other thing is the fairness aspect. I don't think there's any other charge at any level of government where ratepayers have to pay for a service that they are not allowed to use, and then they have to pay again to someone else to actually get that service. And that's true for about a third of the residents of Yarra, apparently. I was a bit shocked with that figure. I think it's been, that's really scandalous unfairness, and this proposal is going to help with that. So, in summary, I'm supporting. A lot of the arguments against have been based on all the misinformation in campaigns and so on, because there are lots of other opportunities for Yarra to save money, and I think they should do that. But we need this reform as well. It's a completely separate question. There's also, why not separate out other charges? Waste is special for the reasons that I've given, the environmental impact and the fact that it's a private good. So, thank you.
Thank you, David. I have Elizabeth Honey, and after that I have Lindy Uren and Alan C, so TSE. Elizabeth, I'll give it to you.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth Honey, lived in Richmond since 1972. Why is Yarra Council the last in the state to make this change? It's a very responsible step, and 76 other councils in Victoria have done it, so please decide in favour of the change. It's sensible, and good, reliable communication is vital, so keep us informed in what happens next. Also, I commend you for standing for council, because it's a democracy, and unless somebody stands up to be voted for, the place won't run as a democracy. And our polarisation is toxic, and the media feeds on conflict. And this is a situation where we need to actually have a talk about waste to solve this problem. Some of the best brains in Australia live in Yarra. Also, some with little education and little English. There's talent and generosity. We all want to do the right thing, but there are two huge elephants in the room. The first is manufacturers. I've taken stuff down to Coles in Swan Street, asking them whether containers could be recycled, and they don't know. They have no idea. The other one is the supermarkets. Could we have a Coles or Woolworths or Aldi, who is the most carbon responsible thing, and call them out in the Yarra News? Now, this is dull as dishwater. It was really important what was said in here. There were 4 pages. They were well written, explaining the situation. Its intentions were good. It's distributed Yarra-wide, but I don't think it was read because there's a lot of people here who don't understand the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up, I have Lindy Uren, followed by Alan C, and then Timothy Nielsen, if you can make your way towards the prompt. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lindy Uren is my name. I understand waste management in the council has blown out over the past few years, and I'm not surprised. When the recycling collection was cut back to fortnightly, the council were telling residents that the bins were free, so we're handing them out like lollies. However, in the current economic climate, I know I can't change the direction of the wind, but I have to adjust my sails to be able to survive. Where's our council adjusting their sails? A consequence of the free bin saga was that people suddenly clicked and thought, oh, cool, I can have a bigger landfill bin as well. And the answer was, sure, how many would you like and what size did you want? Seriously, have you tried to walk down a footpath in the city of Yarra on bin collection day? Some homes have 2 large recycle bins, 2 large landfill bins out in the footpath. Does the waste management team even have a record of what size and how many bins each home has? Where is the incentive for people to reduce their waste? The council have made a mess of this and has created a monster and now wanting us ratepayers to bail them out. How can we trust the council to manage a waste budget any differently just because there is a separate line item on our rates? What is going to be done differently? I suspect you will just raise this line item because you've got no imagination on how to cut costs and improve services. Reduce your overheads like we all have to in these times. The nice to have are slowly going from our personal lives. You need to stop spending money on non-council related activities, and there you will find your savings. I ask our council to reject the proposal tonight and request the Waste Management Department clean up their internal processes, educate the community about waste reduction incentives before any changes to our rate structure. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Timothy Nielsen, and after that, Kenneth Gomez and Paul Jackson. Yes.
Hi. Now, rates have gone up by more than inflation every single year this millennium and some past years. We are now paying 40 or 50% more in rates in real terms than we were paying at the start of the century, even though the municipality has gentrified and there should be less need for necessary expenses compared with what there used to be. The rate caps have been over inflation every year, and we've hit the rate cap every year. The report admitted that the waste charges are expected to outstrip the rate caps, which means that we will be paying not just above inflation rate cap increases, but more than that because of the separation of the charges. Now, as has been said before, this needs to stop. Just as one aside, the people who get charged for a service they don't get, they should be given a rebate on the rates. There's no need to separate out the payments in order to achieve that. Now, what needs to happen is, as been said, council needs to start prioritising what is necessary and what is the actual core function, waste services, pay that from rates, and take into account also what is necessary for the citizens, like buying their groceries and paying their electricity bills. And if they get more and more money taken away from them by the council, that makes them less and less able to pay for their own necessities. Deprioritise things which are not necessary but nice to have, and spend on that only the amount of money that is available, which should be no more than the rate cap, in fact should be less than the rate cap. You see, the inputs into garbage collection, which are higher than, say, the inflation rate, should be offset in calculating an average inflation rate by other things which are lower. That's what inflation is, it's an overall measure of costs. So separating out above things and charging us more for that, while still leaving yourself the latitude for the above average rate cap for things that are below the inflation rate, is simply irresponsible and squandering things. It really has to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, before you go... Sorry. Sorry, could the last speaker just confirm their name for me? Okay, great, thank you. Next up is Kenneth Gomez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Kenneth Gomez, Fitzroy North, 20-year resident. I'm not going to go through the spiel that I think I was going to say. I'm just going to point out, I guess, what's happening. The real story, the real argument of what's happening in Yarra, it's not happening in this room. These are just the people who turned up. It's all the media organisations. Right now, I think my wife is speaking to a current affair. It might have been 15 minutes ago, actually. And I've seen all the reports in the Herald Sun, 3AW, 7 News. It's the damage to Yarra's reputation and the damage to your reputation is quite significant. And it's because you need to get your house in order before you stick your hand out and ask for more money. That's what Councillor Jolly pointed out to the Herald Sun. The long-standing members of the councils know that I and a few other people have been coming up here talking about the financial mismanagement over the last 10 years. It's not your fault, it's the previous administration. I feel for the new CEO. The last administration, hopefully it's not libelous, basically left Yarra a bloated mess. That's very obvious to anyone who can read a financial report. And rightly so, people are conflating your need for a bin tax with the need to fix the financial situation that Yarra is in. Don't know whether it's true, but that's the perception. I think it's true myself. The really galling thing for me is that you claim to have done consultation. You're imposing a charge on people without talking to them first. In the US... In the US, the lawsuits would be lining up of taxation without representation. So that's where we've got to. It is bizarre. You know, I feel for your councillors. The state government's going to claim the credit for rubbish management. The administration will get the funds they need to try and get us out of a mess. You guys will wear the blame for charging us for the new tax.
Thank you, Kenneth. Next up, I have Paul Jackson and then Ross Martinson and Kevin McMahon. If you could just state your name before starting, thank you.
Paul Jackson, Clifton Hill, 23 years as a resident. First of all, I'd like to thank for the opportunity, but I want to bring one thing to account here, and there's the whole reason everybody is behind us here, it's a question of trust, and the trust in the council has been breached terribly. You have a real trust problem, and I go back to when did rubbish become a confidentiality issue? How can rubbish be a part of a confidential councillor briefing? What you're doing here, through your secret reports and your secret decision making, because that's what was effectively encouraged by the secrecy going around here, is it's all the decisions are made behind doors. Equally, you've breached the trust of the community on the excesses in the employee costs that have just blown out over the last 10 years. You keep hearing it time and time again that you need to look at your own house, and this is where you've breached the trust, because what's happened is that you are spending money on the employees, and the employees look like it looks like you are running the council for the benefit of the employees, not the community. And that's why we feel so offended. And that's why there's so many people turning up here, because the trust has been breached. Now, I hope that you've read my individual email with all the financial data behind it, but you do need to have a good look at yourself. Another issue on the trust, there was meant to be an independent review, that was put in the budget some years ago. We're still waiting because no doubt this has been killed off, negated, pushed down the road, whatever.
Thank you, Ross.
It's Paul, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Paul. Thank you, Paul. I apologise for that. Ross? Great, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Councillors. Ross Martinson. I read the officer's report. It cries foul about cost transfer from the state government and how unfair this is. But the state government wants to make these ridiculous ideological promises, and that you're all powerless as councils across the state to do anything about it. But are you not doing exactly the same thing to the residents? But the difference is we can't charge someone else. We sink or swim on your decisions and your irresponsibility. A question: have you had your highly paid consultants calculate how much your direct spending is increasing inflation and directly increasing costs for mortgage holders across your electorate? Because your proliferate spending is increasing. It is increasing inflation and the pressure on the whole economy. Is there a way council can actually grow a spine and actually confront the state government if the rate cap isn't valid, if there's genuine costs that can't be reduced? Then make the argument up. Don't come and put your hand out for us that can't respond. It's ridiculous. I'm told the council expects to raise an additional $80 million a year from this separation. Not the first year, of course, because the cap's there, but then the cap removes and you can just lift your amount. Councillors, can you explain how this additional spending through manipulation of the system and its punishment of powerless residents differs from the corporate tyranny you guys supposedly abhor? Developers exploit Yarra's weak planning regime to overdevelop. What has council done to extract some of their super profits by your policy failures in the areas rather than tap the poor residents again?
Thanks, Kevin. Sorry, Ross. I apologise. I'm sorry, Ross. The next person we have is Kevin McMahon. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm Kevin McMahon. I'm from Melbourne Ward. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speaking here tonight. I thought after 2017 this would be dead in the water. We're back again 6 years later. And it's disappointing that there's been no consultation. I'm very thankful to 3 councillors for showing us the way. And yeah. And keeping us partially informed. Something that should have come from our own councillors. And that was disappointing. What's also disappointing is tonight there's security around here. And you're paying to protect yourself tonight from security from the people who elected you. How ironic is that? What is also disappointing is you talk about servicing the community and justice and looking after everyone. We have more than 50% of constituents here that rent. And during the last year, with high increases in interest rates, they have really had to do it tough. And they have struggled. A lot of people have struggled with their rent. And because of that, they've had to make sacrifices. And now, if you pass this tonight, you're going to give them another kick in the teeth. You might think it's much, $115, but to a person who is on a low income, that's a big difference. It's a little thing that amounts after massive increases. And the thing is, it'll be passed on from the landlord to the renter, and they'll suffer for that. A lot of other things I'd like to say, but in closing, I want to say tonight the theme here is overwhelming that you should reject this. And if you don't, with all the percentages, there's election next year, and about 10% people support this tonight. You won't get re-elected if you put your hand up. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Kevin. Next up, I have Dominic Lavey, followed by Benjamin Norton. Benjamin? If you could please state your name and then...
John Lawson is my name. I'm on an entirely different tack. What I'm basically saying is the council is trying to save pennies in relation to this. The public service, and I ran public departments, and the last time I was involved in here was when the previous council, a commissioner, was reported. Now, I've been involved in a lot of building bits of cities. Geelong Waterfront. I started the Arts Centre and so forth for Dick Hamer, Federation Square, Geelong Waterfront and what have you. What I'm saying to you is that privatisation costs a fortune. It de-skills the council. The council ends up not caring about things and de-skilled. And the privatisation of the waste system. I live in Cremorne Court. You want to wander around the rubbish bins and they're in incredibly bad order. And you've let them get into bad order. And you really should be ashamed of yourself and get your auditor to check what you're up to. Because you answer to the state government. I was running planning and heritage. I started and I was chairman and CEO of the Urban Land Authority. We had a quarter of the amount of development and a lot of redevelopment. The people who worked for us had skills. Council and government generally needs to get back to a skilled situation. Now, you've got an opportunity with the Cremorne plan.
Thank you, John. Your time is up.
I'd just like to finish this.
Thank you, John. Your time is up. We do need to move on to the next person.
We could get millions of federal and state politics, and the politics of this council are such that could do that sort of thing.
Thank you, John.
So all this negativity.
Thank you, John.
Whereas you could get millions from the federal and state.
Thank you, John. I appreciate your submission, but I do need to move to the next person. Can I please call up Gerald Ayres?
Thank you.
I can give some more minutes to John if you like. No?
Sorry, you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. I think you can tell by the passion and the enthusiasm and the disappointment of the people standing or sitting behind me what's going on. And the biggest disappointment in all of this is the lack of consultation, and that's been raised a number of times. I did a PhD in 2012. I was titled Organisational Maturity and Meaningful and Effective Consultation. And one of the nice meanings or the definitions of consultation went like this. In relation to the concept of consultation, I wish to make it clear that this involves more than a mere exchange of information. For consultation to be effective, the participants must be contributing to the decision-making process, not only in appearance, but in fact. I urge the councillors to vote against this waste proposal. I urge the councillors to start again. These are your participants, these are the residents, these are the people you need to serve. I urge you to start the consultation process to allow us, the residents, the participants, to contribute to whatever decision making, to whatever decision comes up from that consultation, but allow us involvement in fact and not just appearance. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person I have is Marcus Coughlin, followed by Vincent Morfuni.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll probably start with thank goodness for the fair go rate system and rates cap. Prior to that, as a member of the Yarra community, the Yarra rate increases were excessive and relentless, and the biggest single burden on our family's financials at that time. And it was supposed to put a handbrake on council spending, but that doesn't appear to have happened here. And now we're hearing the fiscal woes that are trying to be sorted. The officer's report draws attention to the preparation of a long-term financial sustainability strategy, a very sensible tool, and I'm amazed that there's not something like that in place already, but not surprised, you might say. The officer's report does not substitute for this strategy, and how you can make a decision that's substantial and is difficult for the community to accept of a separate waste charge without having that sustainability strategy, fiscal sustainability strategy in place is beyond me. I'd like to say waste disposal should be expensive and should encourage waste reduction and diversion. Having a waste charge, though, is retrograde in two respects. Keeping the waste charges within the rates puts pressure on council to get smarter with its waste and manage costs. A separate charge does not achieve this. A rated property value-based charge, which I'm not sure if everyone understands, but it's a rated property value-based charge has been suggested, does not discourage waste generation, and there is no incentive for change. Council needs to make some hard decisions. I want council to make hard choices around the level and mix of services. The whole idea of a rate cap is to apply boundaries of what's most needed and not be everything to everyone. Rank and cut off within a strategy-derived budget. Everyone else doing it doesn't cut it with me.
Thank you, Marcus. Can I call up Vincent Morfuni? So Vincent Morfuni, followed by Margaret Bushman and then David Stott. And then after that, I have Karen Havenga.
Now, I'm Margaret Bushman, I'm second on the list. I don't have an awful lot to say, except does anyone here ever realise that there are so many people in this whole area who can't speak English, who are too old to have a computer even or know how to answer a mobile phone? There are so many people who are never talked to, who are never even considered. I don't know, I haven't heard anything tonight about people who are disadvantaged except for the ones who could come up in their wheelchairs. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Margaret. Karen David Stott, and then after that, Karen Havenga, and then Francesco Ufino.
Hi, David Stott, Language Ward. This council should vote no to the proposal tonight because it properly belongs within a holistic financial sustainability strategy process. It talks a lot about financial pressures, so it needs a holistic, wide-ranging deep dive. Paragraph 77 on page 18 of your meeting papers notes that this larger umbrella holistic process is underway. Have your papers provided no reason why this particular discrete financial issue must be sorted out right now? Indeed, most of the pages in the meeting paper agenda item are a tacit admission that it should be happening as part of that larger process, because they read precisely like what should be appearing in one. The closest the papers get to an explanation of why this must be done now is paragraph 108 on page 23, which notes that investigating, quote unquote, the potential separation of the waste service charges in the 2023-24 budget is one of the, quote unquote, key initiatives within the long-term financial plan 2022-2032. There are two problems with that. Firstly, again, if one looks at that plan, it's not a holistic investigation. It only mentions the waste charge, plus raising some parking fees and investing in IT. So it's not hard to be a key initiative when there's only 3 initiatives mentioned. It doesn't address spending cuts, so relying upon that plan as to why you're voting on us tonight is quite circular and doesn't wash. Secondly, tonight's only 7 months after that plan, and only one option is being presented. It's almost like the council already had this in mind. It's not much of an investigation. In conclusion, the council should only be considering this as part of a wide-ranging financial sustainability examination, which it's already undertaking, which encompasses spending as well as revenue raising. Now, I'm not saying that process should not end up with a separate waste charge necessarily. What I am saying is you shouldn't be doing it tonight outside of such a process. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next we have Francesco Ifino, followed by Sue Hay, then Robert Heathershaw. If any of those people are here, please move to the front. And then after that, we have Georgia Blackie.
Hi, my name's Francesco Iorfino. I'm not going to go through the whole lot of details. Most of those have been raised, and I support most of the arguments today that are against the tax. What I do want to say, though, is that I understand that the current councils, you've inherited substantial years of poor financial management. Now, we can't change what's happened in the past, but you all have an opportunity to change the future. And I really want to urge you to think about that responsibility, and how that starts is by looking at costs first. When you talk about the officer's report and we talk about a bad budgetary financial situation, it doesn't make me feel that warm when it leads with a tax increase. I think if you present something which looks at the costs that of running this organisation, there are a multitude of opportunities that people have spoken about already that can be done to reduce the cost, and lead with that. Then maybe, if we've exhausted all the possibilities, we can look at other revenue-raising items, but that should be led at first by cutting costs. Thank you.
Thanks, Francesco. Do we have Georgia Blackie, and then after that, Meredith Kefford.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. My name's Sue Hay, long-time Richmond resident and ratepayer. Can I start by saying I've sent an email to all of the councillors. As usual, not one Melbourne Ward councillor replied. To her credit, Councillor Mahood replied, Councillor Joly replied. I have 2 very simple questions for the councillors to consider. Heard the report, and to me, my question is, if it is not to raise revenue by splitting these costs, and it sounds as if, from what many people have also submitted, there's no environmental positive impact, why are you splitting them? Because there must be an administrative cost. What is the City of Yarra residents and ratepayers and businesses going to gain out of you splitting these costs? That's my first question. My second question is, you've been running the trial in Abbotsford for some 2 years of fortnightly waste collection, and I may be incorrect. The glass is possibly monthly at the moment in Abbotsford. Fortnightly, the glass. So if you have been running that as a trial, We don't know if you found it successful. It wasn't supposed to run for 2 years. But if that's what you are considering, which we've been led to believe by your council briefings, are you going to decrease the costs to the ratepayers and the businesses in Yarra? Because we will have less services. So I implore you to not vote this motion in the positive. And remember, there's an election in 2024, and we all have very long memories.
Thank you. After Meredith, can I please have Joanna Williams ready, followed by Julie Clean?
Hi, I'm Meredith Kefford. I'm a co-convener of Yarra Climate Action Now, usually known as YCAN. YCAN supports the proposal to separate waste management charges from general rates. Our purpose, YCAN's, is to work for a safe climate and sustainable future by promoting, protecting and monitoring effective climate and environmental action, with a focus on Yarra, of course. Waste management needs to minimise the amount going to landfill, including maximising recycling. We're really happy that both the Victorian and federal government are bringing in legislative requirements for better waste management, and also appreciate the council programs around education and leadership around the circular economy. We note that the report refers to rolling out more education programs like that along the Rethink, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle guidelines. We're applaud Council's success with separating glass from general recycling, which the stats show is going really well, and look forward to the rollout of the separate FOGO waste collection. We also noted that Yarra's current waste collection costs are lower than than the other municipalities quoted. We accept that improving waste management and changes to the waste industry have greatly increased costs, and it seems that further increases are inevitable. The funds have to come from somewhere. Now, we don't pretend to have detailed insight into Yarra's budget. We haven't, I don't doubt that many people here do have that. But we endorse the report's argument that the increased waste costs will exceed the rate cap, and we agree that it should be separately identified and it should be transparent. We note that all 78 other Victorian councils have already made this decision. The reasoning is obvious. We've heard the argument that savings could be made elsewhere, staffing or other areas. It may be so, but it doesn't change the argument for separating the waste costs from the general rates. We're looking forward to the upcoming consultations about the 23-24 council budget as an opportunity.
Thank you, Meredith. Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you. We see the upcoming consultations.
Thanks. Thank you, Meredith. Thank you. Can I just please ask members of the community to just be respectful? It's really important that everyone gets their say today, no matter what your view is. So, thank you. Could you please state your name before?
Hi, my name's Joanna Williams, and I wanted to thank everyone for allowing us to come here and to express our views today. Whilst I do see there is some reasonableness with this proposal, what I'm deeply concerned about is the fact that the paper has recommended that no consultation is necessary before you vote today. This feels deeply inappropriate, given this is a really substantial change to how our rates and charges are given in Yarra, and that there wasn't a lot of detailed information available prior to this council report going out. This has resulted in what you've heard today, significant confusion about what a charge is and how it will be implemented, which is widespread outside this room. And it's actually been intensified by the nature of the officer's report, which is written in a way where the average person really struggles to understand what exactly has been recommended and the costs and benefits associated with any options, if there are any, involved in this proposal. I'm a highly educated person who's worked in the public service. I've read a lot of bad papers, and I've found it really difficult to try and piece together exactly why and what was being argued. Given that the council has a history of not consulting or communicating with residents in decisions that have immaterial impacts on their lives, this has caused significant concern and apprehension from a community who already feel that we've been treated with contempt. I ask you to delay this vote until consultation is effectively undertaken where council clearly and accessibly communicates to the public, particularly those who aren't in this room, how this change works and implements community feedback into the design. The council, ratepayers and residents have an opportunity to work productively to develop a sustainable long-term solution to waste management. But this is going to involve proactive communication and consultation. So please do better.
Thank you, Joanna. Do I have Julie Klein, Janet Christie or Lauren Jolly here? Peter Crawford or Kirsten Muir? Okay.
My name is Janet Christie and I've lived in the City of Yarra for over 40 years. I oppose this recommendation in 7.1 and urge all councillors to vote no and not even to defer it, just say no. There are three underlying themes in this summary. Firstly, user pays for the separation of the waste. That's to implement that. Nowhere does the summary state how many ratepayers will be financially impacted by the separate rate, and I would argue both separate rates will increase every year, and a lot. Secondly, the financial sustainability of the City of Yarra. This separation of waste charges is nothing more than a process to ensure more funds are given to a council which is in a financially perilous state, and that's noted in both 7.1 and 7.4. It's also a way to get round the rate cap. It's cost shifting to improve council's balance sheet by enabling a blatant grab for money from the ratepayers, and it's appalling. The top priorities for a local council must be to provide basic services to its community. The City of Yarra must learn to live within its budget. Thirdly, everyone else does it. That is never an excuse for anybody to do anything. The City of Yarra has an extremely efficient curbside service, as shown in the report, and indicates that everyone else who has these separate charges has allowed their curbside collection, obviously, to be inefficient. So to me, it's another reason not to do it. Please vote no to this. Just stop it in its tracks. We stopped it in 2017. But anyway, my experience with the City of Yarra and waste is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
My name's Kirsten Muir. I'm a ratepayer in Alphington on a pension, and I'm dead against this proposal. How can you allow over 80% of our rates to pay solely for staff salaries? This is preposterous and way in excess of the level at other councils. It is time you learn to live within your budget like the rest of us have to. If you try to proceed with the separation of a waste charge, you will be voted out of office faster than you can say cash grab. For further details, I direct you to my written submission. Lastly, I want to thank Stephen Jolly, Bridget O'Brien and Michael Glinatzis from the bottom of my heart for being the only councillors with enough integrity to stand up for residents' interests and rights. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Peter Crawford. Lots already been said, I won't repeat, but I guess I empathise with the current lot of councillors and what you've inherited, but I've got to say to you, you vote this in and you're only going to be a one-term council. It's that simple. I've got to congratulate you because you've managed with this proposal to unite Labor and Liberal voters, and that's not easy. And
also fired up a lot of people who normally would not be active but will, because this is just a sample that's behind me. I guess the three words I'd use to you would be trust, credibility and transparency, and I'm afraid I don't think we've seen it yet. And you guys have got a lot to do. Really, everyone agrees about the financial viability being a real problem here. But what you've got to do is not just look at one thing and whack in a price increase, whether you call it a charge or a tax, doesn't matter. It's an increase. It's an extra imposition on people. What you've got to do is what any proper business does, is get out, do your comprehensive analysis, get your benchmarks, see how you compare with other ones, because I've got to tell you right now, with what we read in the paper and here, and not through you guys, but from other sources, is that I think we all as ratepayers are going to be thinking, not that you're about the 3 R's of rates, rubbish and roads, but not you lot, but the previous administration, we're all about 2 R's, namely recruitment and remuneration for staff, and nothing else. So you really need to, I think, stop this in its tracks, get into a proper comprehensive analysis. Don't just cherry pick one thing that's easy and that handballs the problem to ratepayers, but really see what needs to be done. We all accept that, but we also accept that you guys like us have got to live within our means. Don't just try and handball the pass. That cost, you can't do it. There's also actually a logic flow in your proposal, because you say...
Thank you, Peter, that's
okay,
time.
I'll raise that later.
Can I invite Julie Bruffy and then Yoke Mardui? After that, we have Eric Platt and then Ian Carmichael. That's fine, yeah.
Okay, is this on? Yes, it is. Mayor and councillors, good evening. I don't have the advertisement with me.
Could you just state your name?
Oh, sorry, Eric Platt,
Great,
resident
thank you.
Richmond, 40 years-ish. I don't have the advertisement with me, but in a recent Ballarat area newspaper, the council advertised a community consultation process ahead of any changes in this topic. It looks like Yarra City Council have taken the opposite Donald Trump-style approach. So can I suggest 2 considerations? Ask the crows and the rats in the municipality what they think of the reduced collection frequency, and bulk purchasing of Glen 20 spray cans for the residents and visitors to use liberally. I pay tribute to Fiona. She was our first speaker tonight, in her concise way of putting things, and subsequent people. That's great. And I suggest that there's going to be a lot of attention taken on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Do we have Ian Carmichael, John Griffiths or Andrew Redwood here? Sorry, Tom Griffiths or Andrew Redwood? If not, do we have Nicholas Shea and then Greg Spark? Greg, I think we'll go to you then.
Greg Spark from Fitzroy North. I've been a resident of Yarra, or ratepayer of Yarra, for over 30 years. Through you, Mayor, I'd like the councillors to not support this motion of separating the waste charges, and to live within your means a bit more. I think you need to do a better job of helping people work with the waste in the 4-bin system that you're proposing that we use, a lot of our properties which are only 5 metres wide, we don't have enough space even for 3 bins, let alone 4 bins, and it's just a difficult thing. We'd like to see Yarra actually doing a lot more in recycling themselves, particularly in our parks and gardens. You know, one of the problems, I think, in places like Edinburgh Gardens, where we have a lot of vibrancy, a lot of people, you should be doing recycling there. You should have big containers for glass drop-off and same cans. We used to have a cannery site there. Bring it back. We need some bins where people could actually... I think people would actually do that. They'd put their rubbish in the proper containers and lower the amount of rubbish that goes out as general waste. Separate the poo from dog poo from the general rubbish and make it a bit easier on the park people managing the site. The other thing I think you should be doing is promoting the recycle station down in Clifton Hill and tell the good news stories of, you know, what stuff you do get in that you can make some money out of, and encourage people to use that facility a lot more and take their bottles or their paper down when they're recycling other things. You know, there are good news stories in recycling, and you should be promoting it a lot more yourself. That was what I'd like to say.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I'd like to invite Rachel Verstegen and then Po Len Peck after.
Thank you. Rachel Verstegen, resident of Clifton Hill in the... what's it called? I'm in the Nichols ward. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm a little bit nervous, actually. I'm speaking on behalf of all residents, including, especially the ones unable to attend, the elderly, the blind, the immobile, the disabled, particularly my 83-year-old neighbour, Sia, the widow up the road, who probably goes through half a bag of rubbish a fortnight. She shouldn't be hit with this tax. And also my widower up the road who wrangles 3 kids. He's very concerned not only about the increase in the waste transfer charge, he's concerned our bin collection will be reduced to his detriment. Why is this even being proposed? Is the council not aware that interest rates are increasing, inflation's running rampant, and now they want to hurt people further by introducing a waste transfer charge? Make no mistake, this is a tax and it will only increase from here. What's next? An entrance fee to the library and to parks? We pay rates for services and it is up to the City of Yarra to deliver those services. Oh my God. There is only one reason this has been considered. It isn't to help out the good ratepayers of Yarra. It is to cover up council incompetence and the fact they have trouble balancing the books. Us ratepayers shouldn't be punished for the council's financial illiteracy. Here's a hint. Forget about attempting to increase revenue. Look at the other side of the ledger and make some cuts. A novel thought, I know. What's the council doing with our rates? There's new apartments all over the City of Yarra. We should be getting economies of scale.
Thanks, Rachel.
Our rates should...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person up I have is Po Len Peck, and then after that, Helen Ambrose.
Hi, my name is Po Len Peck. It's the first time I've been here, first time to speak, and first time looking at all the numbers associated with my rates. I lived in Melbourne for 17 years, and in this time, my rates have gone from sub 2,000 to about 4,000, which is double the average rate. So I thought maybe I could have two microphone here to express three aspects of what I want to express. The first is cost, the second is consultation, the third is communication. So the first is cost. First time I had a look at your annual report and I was gobsmacked. 125 million in rates, 100 million in employee salaries. And I thought, my God, how complex can a council business be? So then I went to have a look. How many staff have you got running this complex council? 1,300. Oh my God, let me look. 800, 900 odd full-time employee, give or take, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, okay, it's a complex business running council. And then I thought, okay, what about benchmark? I used to live in the city of Melbourne, and I still pay rates there. I'm really impressed with the way city of Melbourne communicate changes. Every time, everything is very pro customer service to the ratepayers. They tell us things, they inform things, they make it easier for us to pay. Anyway, so then I thought, okay, this rubbish thing, how big is this Ben-Hur they're talking about? And I thought, 4,000 bahts, I'm only getting my rubbish paid. And then it's like a few years back, my rubbish bin got knocked, and they gave me a midget bin without telling me. And then I thought, okay, all right. And then, of course, there's a separate issue of you collecting it later and all that. And I'm thinking we're going to be breeding rats. So I thought to myself, let me go and look at Recycling Victoria's website. What have they got to say? What is sustainability? So I wanted to look at what the last 15 years trend of all the various categories.
Thank you, Po. Thank you for your time.
Okay. All right.
The next person I have down is Helen Ambrose. Helen Ambrose, are you with us? If not, that's the end of my list, but I'm going to go back to the start for anyone who I might have missed. First person I have is Bob House, then Birkin Errol, Leslie Jeffrey, David Warwick, so the next person after that is Patrick Hills, Kelly Simpson, Alan C, Dominic Labby, Benjamin Norton, Vincent Morfuni, Karen Hovenga, Robert Heathershaw, Georgia Blackie, Julie Klein, Lauren Jolly, Julie Bruffy, Yoke Ma Dewi, Ian Carmichael, Tom Griffiths, Andrew Redwood, Nicholas Shea, and Helen Ambrose. Nicholas, yes, please make your way towards the mic.
Yeah, good evening, councillors. I'd just like to emphasise, that's what I pay rates for, rubbish collection. And I don't know about all of them, but I don't get much else. That's what I pay rates for. Rates is rubbish collection. And if you've got, that's what we pay rates for. I want to emphasise that to you. That's what I'm paying rates for. And if you've got a debt, and we heard you have, and there hasn't been any report in the local magazine about an administrator, you need to reduce your spending like a business. It's our money that's being wasted. You need to reduce your costs like a business. All of you, okay? It's a corporation. You need to reduce your costs. If you can't, we can't be, with inflation, we can't be subsidising all these bad debts. We pay rates for rubbish collection. That's all I get, and there's a family of 5 of us. We don't get much else. You've got to reduce your spending. That's rubbish collection is what we pay rates for. All right? Thank you.
Is Helen Ambrose here? If not, that concludes the submitters list that I have. Sorry, what was your name? I'm sorry, I don't have your registration here. I'm sorry, I don't have your registration here, so unfortunately we have reached the rest of our submitters. I'm sorry, I don't have your registration. I'm sorry, we have heard from everyone who has registered today.
So,
I'm sorry, we don't have your registration here. I'm sorry, we don't have your registration. I will need to move on. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have your submission and I don't have your registration, so I will need to move on. So, Mr. Thomas, have we had a registration from anyone else tonight? We don't?
Sorry, everyone that was waiting outside has now been admitted. There was sufficient capacity, thankfully, so there's no one waiting outside. This gentleman did not register. We've reached the end of all our registered submitters this evening.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions from officers at this stage? Councillor Landis.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the submitters. Two questions. In relation to public housing, what percentage does this make up in terms of rateable properties, and how will...
Councillor Landis, we'll just take them one at a time, if that's okay.
Well, okay, so no, this is the one question.
Okay.
Okay. So it goes to... thank you. It goes to public housing and the percentage of rateable properties as part of public housing, and how will the separate waste charge work if the government has to withdraw these properties from paying rates, and will the council still be required to manage the waste from these properties?
Thank you, Mr. Landis. I believe that question goes to Wei Chen.
Thank you for the question. And through you, Mayor, the social housing accounts for about 9 to 10% of our total rateable properties. In terms of what will happen if they become rate exempt, the last time the state government made that attempt, it was 2022. We did not have all the details, but my understanding is that their proposal was to make those properties rate exempt, which means we can still collect a waste charge, but not the general rates, if that was successful. Thank you.
Councillor Landis.
Second question, will non-rateable properties be subject to a separate waste charge?
Wei, I think that's you as well.
Yes, thank you for the question again, through you, Mayor. The non-rateable properties, the ones that receive rates waste service, are currently being charged a waste charge as per normal fees and charges. As per the last budget, they were charging $390-ish. And because this council report is about separating waste charges from general rates, those non-rated properties do not pay general rates. That's why it's not mentioned in this report. And the waste charge for the non-rateable properties go through a normal budget process, which you will see in the draft budget document. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor O'Brien?
I have a way forward.
I'm just going to see if councillors have any more questions. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Stone.
Thank you. I think it's possibly to the CEO. One of our submitters raised the very fair question, I think, of why now, and I think it's something that a lot of people are having a lot of trouble getting their heads around. I know, and some of the community know, that a longer-term financial sustainability strategy is needed and is being prepared. It's not complete yet. You know, it takes as long as it takes, hopefully not too long. But this would obviously make more sense within that strategy, and I think some of our submitters have said that tonight. So I guess the question the submitter asked is why now? And secondly, when can we expect the broader financial sustainability strategy, which I think is at the core of what a lot of our submitters are asking about tonight?
CEO.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Stone. In terms of why now, so there's several reasons for that, but primarily it's about the timing with the preparation of the draft budget. This decision is required to inform the preparation of the draft budget. The other thing that I would like to make really very clear, I acknowledge that financial sustainability of Yarra and indeed the local government sector across Victoria is problematic. That is not as a result of decisions taken by this council. In fact, it is an inherited problem. So I think that's really important to point out.
Can I just please ask the floor be respectful?
Our programs, and this is a matter of public record, but our programs are heavily leveraged by debt that's more than a decade old. So the need for a long-term financial sustainability strategy is evident, and certainly the organisation is working towards preparing one of those. It's also fair to say that we can do more than one thing at the same time. So the financial sustainability strategy is not the single piece of activity that needs to occur. In fact, this, in order to restore council's financial position, will require a completely integrated approach, which I think is actually what we've heard tonight from the community. So you can't pick one thing, and certainly that is not the intention. Irrespective of council's financial position, I would be making this recommendation to council tonight. As has been said on a number of occasions, Yarra is the last council in this state to make this decision, which
Sorry, can I please ask everyone in the gallery to be respectful? We've heard from you already. It's really important that we now give councillors an opportunity to ask questions.
And I would put to council that that's informative. This approach is informative because what it does is it seeks to address further erosion of council's financial position. So the financial sustainability strategy that is on foot will seek to put in place a series of activities that will go to addressing costs, go to addressing income, all of the things that also need to occur. But my position and my recommendation to council is this also needs to occur.
Thank you. Councillor Stone, you have another question?
So just to follow up, we've heard a lot about tightening your belt in other ways instead of this. What your recommendation is that and this?
Absolutely. Okay. And I think that is going to be incumbent on council to have a really good look at the services they offer, the staffing levels. One of the reasons why and it was spoken about tonight, one of the reasons why the staffing numbers are what they are is because this council offers a range of services that many councils don't, including the ones that were mentioned. Those services are not run in-house. So a number of our neighbouring councils, for example, do not provide aged care services anymore. Those are large workforces. So those things are instructive, and unfortunately this council is going to have discussions about its service levels as well as its costs. So those things are equal in addition to trying to shore up its future by not going further backward.
Councillors, do you have any more questions tonight? Councillor Stone.
Yeah, I think this is to, I'm not sure who it's to, but it's about the concerns that some of our residents have expressed about the waste charge being the thin end of the wedge, and there might be other charges in future, and we'll have to start paying to go into the library. Am I correct in understanding that this is the only separated charge that the state government allows local governments to initiate? It's the one and only, and that it's particularly because it recognises that the rate cap cannot accommodate what's happening with waste?
Chen, is that with you?
Yes, thanks for the question. Through you, Mayor, the waste service charge is only service charge that is allowed under the Local Government Act 1989. And there were some others before, like drainage, etc., which has been deleted in the last bill amendment. So yeah, it is the only one that is allowed.
Any other questions?
Councillors, any more questions from the floor? If not, Councillor O'Brien, you had a way forward, is that right?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do have a way forward. I am suggesting that that my alternate motion is that Council defers its decision on the separation of waste charges to 1. Request officers provide publicly A. Further detail of the modelling of costs to residents if waste is to be separated from rates. B. Data on the changing use of waste services since 2017. And C. Details on how this proposal is equitable. 2. To seek community consultation on the proposal. 3. To engage with the state government on the matter of cost shifting raised in the report. And 4, to consider other lines of revenue that do not potentially involve increases in costs of council services to our community or the potential reduction of services.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Glenatsis is the seconder. Councillor O'Brien, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, tonight, we are being asked to endorse the officer's report and the recommendation that Council moves to separate a waste charge from the general rates. The report does not provide the details of the proposed separate service rate and provides only vague statements on what the model may in fact look like. These details are to be released in the draft budget. In the interests of good governance and in line with Council's public transparency policy, we need to be crystal clear on exactly what we are endorsing here. This is a significant change, and the report does not provide transparency on exactly what that change will be. I personally want to be 100% confident that any change would be completely equitable. This report focuses on financial considerations, not environmental concerns. There is no analysis of the merits or otherwise of moving to a user pays system that is intrinsically embedded in this proposal. Private waste providers are subject to much weaker regulations than councils. As a result, most of their collections go into landfill. Should those that don't work towards sustainable waste outcomes receive a financial benefit? There needs to be much greater discussion about how we work towards a holistic, collective approach to reducing landfill, improving recycling, and moving to a circular economy. Finally, the report does not provide justification for the lack of community consultation on this proposal. Our community engagement policy states that, yes, sometimes council may need to inform the community of a decision where there is no opportunity for community input, but this is on such things as public safety issues, when council is not the decision-making authority, when it relates to a council strategy already endorsed by council, when the community has previously been consulted, or when it relates to an internal staffing matter. The lowest tier of the community engagement policy, in form, implies such an approach is appropriate for minor or non-controversial issues. The report proposes a big change for all ratepayers and relates to a significant community issue, waste management. So I am requesting a deferral to ensure good governance, greater public transparency of the proposal, and to seek community engagement before a decision is made.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Councillor Glanatsis.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, as the newest councillor, the 2020 elections are fresh in my memory, and the controversial decisions and reputations this council's had for not consulting correctly. I find myself incredulous that we find ourselves repeating those identical mistakes just a couple of years on after every candidate acknowledged that Yarra needs to improve its consultation. The idea of approving new fees and charges before going out for a so-called consultation doesn't pass the pub test. We just look like we are trying to strong-arm changes through before people can feel they are heard. There's been a lot of commentary over how this issue has been portrayed, and amongst my colleagues. We only have to blame ourselves. If we cannot simply and plainly communicate what is that we are trying to do, building trust with the community, that is our problem, not theirs. There is insufficient detail on these new fees for the community, or even ourselves as councillors, to approve them in good faith with the community. There have been hundreds and hundreds of emails over this, overwhelmingly calling for us to drop these fees, to defer their implementation until the community can be properly consulted. In our roles as councillors, we are duty-bound to listen to these perspectives and do this properly. We have not covered ourselves in glory as a council when we go about it like this. A deferral is the only option that will retain some level of good faith with the community. If we approve this tonight, not a single councillor should complain when the community never trusts us again after the feedback we've had. Given the financial circumstances we find ourselves in, we must, as a council, consider the perception this leaves people with and what diligence has been done in showing the community we have done in clean up our own backyard first, before clumsily and rough-shodding through these substantial changes. A deferral is the only option for this council to save face and retain our integrity. We haven't got this right. We need to acknowledge we have gotten it wrong and fix it rather than blindly continuing down this treacherous path which inevitably results in the already strained relationship between the community and council being degraded even further. There are no winners out of proceeding tonight. Let's do the right thing and acknowledge we got it wrong. The way we have gotten the way we have gone about this wrong, and start taking some genuine steps to fixing this and restoring trust with the community.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Thank you. Can I just see if any other councillors would like to speak to this motion? If not, we'll go to a vote. All those in favour? Okay. Well, the motion is lost.
Call for a division, please.
Yep. All those in favour? Councillor O'Brien, Councillor Jolly, Councillor Glanatsis. Councillors, do we have another motion to put forward?
Yeah,
Councillor Landis?
I'd like to move the officer's report.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wade, you're seconding. Councillor Landis, would you like to speak to it? Sorry, can I please ask members of the gallery to be respectful of the councillors? We have sat here patiently and listened to everyone speak today, and I do ask that you be respectful to councillors. Councillor Landis.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the submissions today. I have listened and I've written every point down. I've heard about balancing the books. I've heard about waste management. I've heard about consultation, and I've heard about communication. I would like to thank the officers for this report and to extend my compliments on delivering this useful document that provides a powerful insight to the challenges of waste management and keeping our city clean and healthy. The facts are that in 2019, 38% of our waste was going to landfill. In 2022, that's been reduced to 30%. The fact is that it costs money to take the waste away from landfill. It costs money. It costs money to put... The issue...
Can I please ask members of the gallery to be respectful, councillors, please?
The issue before council turns on two questions: collective responsibility and sharing the burden. We all share in the collective responsibility of managing waste. It's not just a case of... It's not just a case... Peter...
Okay, sorry, members of the gallery, again, I needed to ask you to please be respectful of councillors. We have listened to each submitter tonight, and no matter what your view is, can I please ask that you show some respect to councillors who are now deliberating the outcome?
It's not just a case of putting out the bins. Somebody has to pick them up, somebody has to ship them somewhere, someone has to sort them, someone has to process them. Rather, managing waste involves a complex process of sorting and distributing our waste around Victoria, where material can be recycled back into the economy, thus minimising landfill. Keeping our city clean and safe is costing the community $20 million a year. 16% of your rates are rates. I pay rates too, by the way. 16% of our rates is going into waste management. The question then becomes how to share the burden, because it's clear that council's rates income currently is extended across many functions of council, and that for every dollar of rate income that council receives, it is spending $1.60.
Please, can I please ask everyone to respect councillors as they...
If we want swimming pools, if we want clean parks, if we want footpaths, if we want trees, if we want the things that we like in our city, they've got to be paid for. And notwithstanding many claims that council has too many staff, wasting money, etc., council can't provide the full range of services it does and fix our crumbling drains and our footpaths if it also has to meet the increasing costs of waste. It's a simple fact. Yarra is the last municipality to transition to a separate waste charge. The government has recognised that restricting waste charge to a rate cap is not sustainable and has permitted the waste charge to be removed from the rate cap, provided that it's not used to generate revenue but to simply recover costs. This council is having to deal with legacy issues from previous councils, including intergenerational debt. We had $32.5 million of interest-only debt that has only just recently been refinanced. That debt from 2012. But the problem is that should not be conflated with this decision tonight. The issues around sustainable financial planning is still a work in progress and will be addressed over this year. Tonight is about sharing the burden of waste management costs fairly and equitably.
Please don't interrupt the councillor, please.
We've got young people who've bought into flats, very modest price, and then we've got houses recently selling for $4.2 million. Is it fair that people, young couples in a flat, 400,000, have to pay their body corporate, plus including their waste, and then have to pay this as well?
Thank
in
you,
other words,
Councillor Landis.
subsidising? The officer's report has chosen not to adopt a flat fee, but rather a valuation basis. Where those who provide according to their ability to ensure those can be provided according to their needs.
Councillor Landis, your time is up. I'll need to move on to the seconder, please. Okay.
Can I just make a point of order? I just want to appeal just to back up the Mayor, and you know I disagree with what the last person spoke, but I just think that they want to make us out that we're a bunch of rabble-rousers or whatever. Just listen to what they have to say, and when the vote's taken, then go off if you want to go off. But just because they're going to twist this around, so let's listen patiently and respectfully to the speakers.
Thank you, Councillor Jolly. Councillor Wade.
Hi. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I wanted to start by saying thank you for coming tonight and engaging in the democratic process. It's a really important part of council. I'm trying to say something in good faith. I really appreciate people coming, and I also appreciate the fact that people have taken the time to read the report, which, you know, not everybody takes their time to read 16 pages of a council report, and I respect the fact that people did that tonight. So I just wanted to start by saying thank you for that. Also good to see first-timers here, and I hope we see you again. And thanks to people who came to consultations on the street as well and had individual chats with us. I'm really proud of the fact that Yarra usually leads in the local government sector. On the issue of waste charges, however, we're not leading. As has been pointed out several times today, we're dead last. One thing I'd like to mention before I launch into specifics is that councillors are tasked not just with looking after the municipal community of today, but the municipal community of future generations. This is laid out in item 9 of the Local Government Act 2020, but it's also common sense. We need to make sure this city is ready for our kids' kids, our nieces, our nephews, the kid down the road, all of them. This is one of those decisions we need to make that is as much about them as it is about delivering the infrastructure and services they need as it is about us here and now. I've had a few people say to me in recent days, and indeed it was repeated again tonight, that just because another council does something doesn't make it a good idea. And I've said to those people, and I'll say it again now, I agree. But just because every other council has done something doesn't mean it's not a good idea either. In this case, councils across the financial sustainability spectrum, those with no debt to those in much worse shape than Yarra, have instituted waste charges. They have done this because as the need to do much better with our waste becomes more urgent to both local councils and the state government, who control the levies, waste costs are going well above CPI. And some years, like this year, the state government has set our rate cap at less than CPI, meaning that to deliver core services like waste, we need to take funding that would otherwise go to libraries, parks, senior citizen services. Take your pick, but that's what we're using to keep our bins empty and our streets clean. So officers at Yarra, like officers at every other council in the state, have recommended that waste be separated out from the main set of rates, reducing the overall pool by the commensurate amount to make sure there's no massive hit to ratepayers and no windfall to the organisation this year. So that costs increase in waste can be recovered from ratepayers in future years rather than seeing our other services cut. I note that this exact situation was foreseen by our state government, who have carved out, and this was also mentioned tonight, from the rate cap, waste, and that's in section 162 of the Local Government Act of 1989, if anybody wants to have a look. Where we do have more room to move, however, in making this choice, in my view, is the model for the waste charge. Officers have recommended a rate model for both the public bins, that's the ones on the parks and in shopping strips, and for the curbside bins. This, like with general rates, will see those in properties of higher value paying more than those in properties of lower value. This is the kind of equity-based approach that I think aligns with most Yarra residents' values. Okay. It's a progressive tax for a progressive people. I'll put more comments online.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. Councillor Stowe, did you have something to ask before?
I wanted to put an amendment.
That's fine. You can pose it to the mover and the seconder.
It was simply to further note that extensive information will be provided in coming weeks on the model and the impact of the proposed waste charge. B, questions on the model and its questions on the model and its impacts will be accepted and responded to, and C, comments on the model will be accepted through the budget consultation process.
Happy to accept.
So, Councillor Stone, have you sent that around to...
I did just then, I'm sorry.
Okay. That's...
Sure.
That's fine with me as well, Mayor.
Okay, so we have the mover and the seconder supporting this. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Jolly.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to speak against this motion, but I first want to acknowledge two groups of people that either weren't allowed in tonight or weren't referenced tonight. One is the 100 people that were locked out the front. It is true towards the end of the night they allowed the stragglers in, but most of them have gone home. They pay the rates for this council. They're the backbone of this council. It's absolutely outrageous that they weren't allowed into this meeting to speak. The second group of people who weren't referenced tonight were renters. 52% of our population are renters. Many of them would probably think, oh, well, this is not really an issue for me, but don't think that every landlord in this area is going to handball the increase in waste charges onto renters. That's obvious. So it's going to lead to rental stress, worse rental stress. It'll be a disaster for renters. The reason that we need to vote this motion down is that it's the mother of all bad consultations. We had bad consultation at Trenery Crescent on Elizabeth Street, but at least there was some type of consultation. There was zero consultation on this, and in fact they only wanted to let us know about it tomorrow morning. The second thing is that there's no pricing model in this report. It's absolutely unbelievable that we're going to be passing the waste charges, but then just basically leaving it to the executive, I guess, to work out all the details. That is no way to move forward. The other thing is there's these accusations of disinformation. The only disinformation that's happening is from the council, because they are saying, some of them, oh, well, this is all about transparency, so you know how much of your rates are going on waste. But paragraph 96 of the report bluntly says this is about getting waste charges out of the rate capping, so they're obviously going to jack them up year in, year out, not limited to rate capping. And they've actually told us in the course of the past period how much money they're going to rake in because of that. But the most important issue, and I'll finish, Mayor, on this point, is where are we going to get this money from? Because the question of mismanagement of the council's finances is real, but there's two ways of dealing with that. And what this council will do, if left to its own devices, is kiss up and kick down. So we've heard somebody say, oh, aged care. There's only 9 of them in the council. We know that this council are quite happy to increase fines, fees and charges. We know this council is quite happy to slash the number of people working on our swimming pools. The frontline staff that we have that are absolutely amazing, they're the ones that are going to get cut. But what we won't see is the 288% increase in senior management and executive spending over the last 14 years. That's where, and also the spending on that white elephant right next door to this building that I'm very proud to be the only council to vote against, that we're only paying the interest back right now. This council has pissed money up against the wall with crazy spending. They've looked after the senior management, and now that they're in a hole, they're trying to offload it onto the residents, and it's not acceptable. So therefore,
Councillor Jolly, your time is up. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the item? Councillor O'Brien? Thank you.
So I would also like to speak against this motion. I would just like to remind my colleagues that the Ombudsman report into transparency of local government that informed the Local Government Act of 2020 states, an active and ongoing commitment to transparency is critical to good governance in all aspects of council business. The visibility of this approach has the power to strengthen councils' relationships with their communities and enhance trust. When councils make decisions on behalf of their communities and the information related to those decisions is not made accessible to the public, this reduces community confidence that council is acting in the public interest. I would argue, again, and the reason I cannot support this motion is because we are being asked to endorse a proposal without the full details of how it will impact ratepayers and every resident in Yarra. It is also a move towards a user-pays system. The proposal involves significant change without providing public transparency or any real community consultation. As many of the public submissions tonight have stated, there should be no major changes without that community consultation. I personally hold very dear the important principles of good governance, transparency and equity, and of community consultation. I'd also want to thank everyone here for their submissions, for the hundreds of letters that emails we've received, and to everyone in Yarra who's taken the time to write or speak to me or give me a phone call. It is a good thing for democracy that so many in our community are engaged with the business of council, and let us continue the fight.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Do any other councillors want to speak to the item? Councillor Crossland.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, and this has been touched on already, thank you all very much for your participation this evening. It is really appreciated. And also to everyone that has emailed us and has engaged with us at other community engagement forums. There are 79 councils in Victoria. Again, this has already been touched on. 78 councils have already grappled with this matter and have varied financial circumstances. And in all instances, they have explored potential different means of address. And out of those 78, not one has been able to come up with an alternative solution. Not one.
Please, can we please hear from Councillor Crossland?
The misinformation that has been purposely spread regarding this matter has been really disappointing. The campaign has suggested that we can make wine out of water, and it's simply not the case.
Point of order, Mayor.
What's your point of order, Councillor O'Brien?
I'm not sure that another councillor should be accusing people of spreading misinformation.
So what's your point of order? That's not a point of order. So, Councillor Crossland, please continue.
Thank you. I've had some really great conversations with community members regarding waste at numerous engagement forums and appreciate those opportunities, including with a number of people who are here this evening. However, as part of this, there have been numerous emails, and it's important to touch on this. They've been really inappropriate and threatening, and it's really not okay. It's totally fine for people to have difference of opinion, but some of the things we've received have been totally inappropriate. What I did want to touch on, though, is something that has been referenced numerous times, particularly in a number of those emails, and that's regarding Burnley Golf Course. This wasn't some kind of luxurious expenditure on upgrades of a facility. This was risk mitigation works to address a very real public safety risk. It's no different to that of a building that may collapse and cause injury to a passerby. So trying to suggest it's something else is simply not true. I think it's important to note again, as has been mentioned, this is a legacy issue, and we're trying to work through these matters in terms of what council can do with its budget realistically. I think something that's important to note that many people tonight haven't necessarily mentioned, but may not even have picked up, that this is actually recognising an opportunity to establish a more equitable outcome for a number of residents in our community. We're talking thousands of residents who are currently paying for a service they simply cannot access. We're looking to change that. But to summarise, yet again, there are no proposed changes to recycling service levels or changes to the frequency of bin collection for the community. No council in Victoria has been able to establish an alternative solution. Separating the waste fee presents an opportunity to deliver greater equity for members of the community who currently pay for a service they simply can't access at this point in time. And quite often, frankly, they are lower income households. So it's worth noting that as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Crossland. Do we have any more councillors who'd like to speak to the motion? Councillor Mohammed.
First of all, I'd like to thank every single person for making a submission today. I thank you for your time and I thank you for coming up here and presenting your views, basically. Someone asked what are the benefits of making these changes. The benefits are FOGO. A lot of community members have been asking about this for a very, very long time, so those are one of the things that will be provided through this. Education campaigns for those that are vulnerable, as a lot of people have said as well. And I think I'm just going to echo what everyone else said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Mohammed. Any other speakers? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those... Okay, we'll go to a vote. All those in favour? That carries.
Yep.
Okay, we have a division. All those in favour? Councillor Stone, Wade, Landis, Nguyen, Crossland, Mohammed. Thank you everyone for coming today and making your submission. We really appreciate hearing from you and all the calls and emails that we have received from you as well. We will now move on to the next item, which is 7.2, the Development Facilitation Program referral of Amendment C307 to the planning scheme. We have no registrations for this item, so I'm going to ask councillors if you would like a report on this item. Councillors would like a report. Mary Osman, if that will be from your area. Yes, councillors would like a report.
Through you, Mayor, are councillors ready for us to commence?
Sorry, to the members of the community, we are actually in the middle of a council meeting, so if Sir Councillor Glenastis, we're in the middle of an item. So can we please have the officers' report as requested?
This item relates to Council's referral response on a combined amendment and planning application for the Victoria Gardens and Doonside precinct. The Minister for Planning is the responsible authority for this matter, with the Development Facilitation Program within the Department of Transport and Planning to undertake the final assessment and decision. Council has been requested to provide comments and recommendations to the Minister. The referral has two components. One is the proposed draft planning scheme amendment to the Yarra planning scheme, seeking to guide the use and development of land within the Victoria Gardens precinct. And the second is the consideration of planning permit application applying to land within the Doonside precinct only. In summary, the amendment seeks to rezone all land within the existing mixed-use zone of the Victorian Gardens precinct to a comprehensive development zone, resulting in the entire site being located within the Comprehensive Development Zone Schedule 1. It seeks to replace the existing Schedule 1 to the Comprehensive Development Zone with a new Schedule 1. This would provide a new schedule with an overarching comprehensive development plan for the entire Victorian Gardens site. It will amend and introduce mandatory height controls throughout the site. It will delete the car parking controls and the sensitive use buffer, and delete the current incorporated document that provides guidance throughout this site. It also seeks to introduce a new car parking overlay, to delete existing Schedule 9 to the design and development overlay, apply an environmental audit overlay over the entire site, and amend the schedule to clause 5301 of the scheme to apply an exemption to the public open space contribution requirements on land within the enlarged comprehensive development zone area. The planning application component for the Doonside precinct seeks to demolish all buildings across the site with the exception of a heritage hotel and construct 6 multi-storey mixed-use buildings containing a total of 839 apartments. The buildings will range in height from 7 to 17 storeys. A number of concerns have been raised by council officers, including the following: a lack of detail within the proposed comprehensive development plan. The provisions to exhibit a more detailed development plan for each precinct should be retained. The overall extent of public open space should be increased in scale and redesigned to improve amenity. The proposed changes to clause 5301 to exclude the subject land from providing public open space contributions is unsupported. A caveat to provide affordable housing based on the approval of additional height for part of the site is not supported. The proposed heights of buildings require amendments based on outcomes from further overshadowing analysis, and a significant extent of public realm updates along all streetscapes must be provided. These concerns, along with recommendations for specific permit conditions, will be communicated to the Minister. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Lara, councillors, do you have any questions? Councillor Stone.
Yes, I wondered if the provisions of the Yarra River Protection Act and the DDO along there were applicable in any way here, because that hasn't been mentioned at all.
Through you, Mayor. They're not seeking to make any changes to those existing provisions. They are deleting Design and Development Overlay 9. However, that relates just to the Doonside precinct. They're not seeking to make changes to current development plans, which are closer to the Yarra River.
Okay, so you're saying that the area where changes are being proposed is not in that buffer area for the Yarra corridor?
Correct.
Okay. Despite the Marine Parade red dot decision, which did go outside the buffer?
Through you, Mayor, the Marine Parade decision applied controls that didn't apply to the site. And as stated previously at a council meeting, we need to be cautious in applying those. However, in this instance, there are no changes to the land proximate to the river. It's seeking to change controls internal within the central portion of the site, and a new portion of land along Doonside Street, which is currently included within the mixed-use zone.
And just a further question, in the past when we've looked at development proposals in this precinct, it's been stated from as long ago as 10 years that Burnley Street is at capacity at that location and basically can't cope with much more traffic. Has there been any discussion about how this developer might address that particular issue in conjunction with the Department of Transport?
Through you, Mayor. There is a proposed Section 173 agreement to be put on a draft planning permit that includes the requirement to provide traffic signals for the Burnley Street and Doonside Street intersection, and also part of the officer recommendation is for this to occur in conjunction with the site to the south, which is the Harry the Hirer site.
Sorry, but traffic lights don't do anything about quantity of traffic on the road there, on a road that can't cater for much more. In the past, there have been contributions requested from developers towards, I think the additional tram in Victoria Street came out of investigations that Yarra has pushed for. So is there any consideration of something like that, like a contribution for the developer that's putting more citizens there towards public transport, advocacy, infrastructure, anything like that?
Through you, Mayor, a specific comment in the report hasn't been provided. We anticipate that the department would be speaking to the Department of Transport to provide some feedback into this proposal if councillors were of the mind to include an additional recommendation within the letter to the Minister advising of some, I suppose, public transport improvements that wouldn't go against what is being proposed by the officers.
Councillor Wade.
Could I just quickly ask, for the benefit of those who remain, the development facilitation program referral that we've received, it's still a relatively new program. Could you just outline how community members are able to engage with that, given we're not making the decision ourselves, we're just deciding on a submission to the state government?
Through you, Mayor. It is actually currently on advertising or notification. A display period of, I believe, 4 weeks was undertaken by the Department of Transport and Planning. People are able to make submissions directly to the state, not through council. As I noted, we're not the responsible authority. However, they are able to make direct submissions to the Department of Transport and Planning.
Any more questions, councillors? If not, I'll look for a way forward. Councillor Crossland, you have a resolution that you'd like to put forward?
Yes, thank you. It's to support the officer recommendations with amendment, and I've got an alternative resolution prepared.
Okay, is there a seconder?
If it could be put on screen, that would be appreciated.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
She's got to find it. That's a long way.
Councillor Crossland, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. In the first instance, thank you, officers, for your presentation this evening and all the work that you've put into the preparation of this report. It's really, really appreciated. Further, also to community members who have reached out and engaged with councillors and officers as well. This current proposal represents one of the most substantial developments in the municipality and warrants further scrutiny. The Development Facilitation Program fundamentally doesn't afford this. The officer report and proposed submission outlines a number of important points and concerns and has been touched on by the officers in their presentation this evening, so thank you for that. Coupled with this are a number of amendments that have been proposed, including that the challenge of a combined application in this instance gives, given this is one of the largest amounts in the municipality, and the planning application should be coming to council. The need to further emphasise that there is insufficient community benefit to warrant the increase in proposed heights. It simply shouldn't be supported at that scale. We're also seeking that 173 agreements for affordable housing contribution at the point of sale of dwellings be included, that there should be greater provision of bicycle parking for a broader range of typologies, so as people move in and have different needs and uses, that they can actually accommodate those things. That there be increased provision of 3 and 4 bedroom apartments so families can move into the area and not have to move into multi-million-dollar houses and having housing at different price points. That there be provision of a community battery, but most importantly, that there needs to be overarching precinct plan development to address the lack of community infrastructure that's necessary to support the significant growth anticipated in this area and as part of this development. This should be looking at fundamental things such as street upgrades, public realm works, enhanced bicycle lanes and other such infrastructure such as public transport, and the need for more pools, gyms and community services. This plan should be delivered in part by the permit holders within the site in future. Ultimately, This application should be subject to the standard planning application process and needs to deliver significantly greater benefit to the community to justify it moving forward. I encourage the State Government to really take this into consideration in terms of the Council's submission and the need for greater infrastructure investment to support the development of this precinct more broadly. Thank you.
Councillor Stone, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of amendments. You moved a bit fast. Is it possible to put those still?
You can put them to the mover, yes.
Yep. The first was that the Mayor write to the Minister for Transport requesting an update on timelines for a new Walmer Street Bridge to accommodate the increasing numbers of pedestrians and cyclists using the river crossing on the Capital City Trail, which is no longer fit for purpose. Who said that? No, that's actually, sorry, that's just upgrades on the Burundara side. Looks like a new bridge, but unfortunately it's not. Good question, which is what we need to find out. And 81, that Council advised the panel that it considers the applicant should provide some tangible support for improved public transport on the Burnley Street corridor to cater for the increased population living and working in this precinct.
Sorry, this is just a part for the councillor to make a amendment. So, Councillor Crossland, do you accept the amendment? Councillor Landis, do you accept the amendment? Okay, Councillor Landis, would you like to speak to the motion?
Oh, sorry. Thank you to officers for a most substantial report. I hope the decision makers hearing this application will take into account the balance for the need for housing and intensity, but also the opportunity for the protection and enhancement of open space and to ensure the livability of those that will reside there. Also, the need to maintain the appropriate local open space developers' contribution, affordable housing contributions, and that the traffic access is managed appropriately, and that the government looks, and I think this is a common theme, looks to the long-term better provision of public transport options where there is this sort of intensity in residential development taking place. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Landis, any other councillors who would like to speak to it? Councillor Wade.
Just a minor comment from me, and also thank you to officers. This is a massive one. It's a, big change to part of our municipality. Like that eastern bit of Richmond is really going to change with this, and I just think it's a bit of a shame that we've only got a few people left in here today, but I hope you'll at least take on what was said and potentially directly contact the state about this, as is their current process. This is the key time that council weighs in. It would have been nice to hear from people, but unfortunately it wasn't the issue of the day. So looking forward to this, and looking forward to seeing some results out of the officer's recommendation and those sets of amendments. They all look good to me.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. Would anyone else like to speak to it? If not, we'll go to a vote. All those in favour? That carries unanimously. Councillors, can I propose that we go straight to the next item so that Councillor Mohammed can step out of the room for the conflict of interest, and then we'll have a 5-minute break after. So we'll go to item 7.3, Fitzroy Adventure Playground, future funding and management options. Councillor Mohammed has previously declared a conflict of interest and is leaving in the room. Councillors, would you like an officer's report? Okay, can we please have an officer's report?
Through you, Mayor, thank you. This is a report back to Council in accordance with the Council resolutions of the 31st of May and the 6th of December, and the report is seeking Council's direction on the future funding and management consideration of the Fitzroy Adventure Playground. To inform the report, we undertook community consultation, and I'm pleased to say that the majority of the participants in the community consultation were children, and also adults and parents, as well as interested stakeholders, organisations that are interested in providing activities at the site, which is commonly known as Cubbies, and also organisations that have either currently providing programs there or have provided program in the past. The report presents 4 options for Council's consideration. The options are connected to, linked to the current level of funding that's in the proposed budget, in line with the 150,000. The options do address the possible expression of interest process for the site in accordance with the 6th of December Council resolution. And also we present just the information on pros and cons, if you like, across for each one. The officer recommendation, which is quite long, outlines some of the process issues and also does make a recommendation to at least start with a revised community grant and site management responsibilities, and also flags that if there is a competitive grant process and that process doesn't result in the panel being able to make a recommendation to Council, that we are also proposing that we might come back to Council with a hybrid model, a pilot delivered by Council's Family, Youth and Children's Services branch, just to ensure the continuation of an adventure playground of a cubby style on the site. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions? Councillor Stone.
Thank you. It's a really good report and it gets to grips with the issues that have been there for some time but obviously still there, and it's excellent. I'm just not sure what is meant by a hybrid model. Both option 1 and option 2 are both described as a hybrid model. What's the hybrid of?
The hybrid model is that there is involvement from both council and community organisations. Option 1 is that the community organisation would be given the grant funding, but certainly council would still be involved both through the actual application process with regards to a community reference group and making sure that's set up to ensure community voices are actually part of the programming and running off the site, which clearly has been missing. And also too that there still is opportunity for council to look at programming there, whether for youth services or children's services or potentially library services. Option 2, which if the grant process is not successful and there is a limited competition for this type of site, that we would pilot it within budget, but we still would be having a community reference group and we still would be seeking community utilisation and interest in the site. It would probably just to help keep the program running and pilot it, evaluate it and see how that actually works. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much.
Any more questions, councillors? If not, I'll look for a way forward. Councillor Stone, you'll move it. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Crossland, thank you. Councillor Stone, would you like to speak to it?
I wasn't planning to because it's not my ward and I don't know what's happening here, but I think, as I said, it's an excellent report. There are long-standing issues with balancing all the competing needs, costs, priorities and so on with cubbies, and questions about its future. Those are all addressed comprehensively in this report, and I think the recommendations in the order that they're presented are really apt, really appropriate, and have the needs and well-being of the children at Atherton Gardens Public Housing Estate at the heart of them, which is as it should be. So I really commend the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Councillor Crossland.
Just to say yet again, thank you to officers for the preparation. For the preparation of the report. It's really appreciated, and just concur with everything that Councillor Stone has just touched on. Thank you again.
Thank you. We go to a vote. All those in favour? That carries unanimously. Councillors will take a 5-minute break, and if we can be back at 9:25. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, sorry. For the record, could you just explain, we've seen in the newspapers reference to the $15 million that council has supposedly made or surplus. Could you just explain the $15 million and how that comes about, and how does that compare to the $2 million, which is the annual variance that's forecast?
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mayor. $15 million year-to-date result is due to additional income received. However, a significant portion of that is going to be either offset through operational spend or offset through capital work spend, which is not included in the net result in the report provided to you. Other items such as discontinuances also provide additional income, but asset sales and spend with money from asset sales is used for asset purposes and again doesn't go through the net result. There have been other increases or savings. However, the result still doesn't generate enough funds for the utilisation or rather the funding of our service levels for community service and the delivery of capital works program. The $2.1 million increase in the surplus is in addition to the adopted budget and has been achieved through real tight monitoring of controls, in particular employee costs, through the mid-year review, which included a line-by-line analysis of all operational and capital works items for the quarter two ending December 2022.
Thank you. Dennis, do we have any more questions for this item? If not, Councillor Landers, you have a way forward?
Thank you.
You're moving it?
Yes, quite happy.
Can I see if there's a seconder? Councillor Mohammed will second. Councillor Landers, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, and I'd like to welcome the audience who were bringing to our attention the financial problems of the City of Yarra, and here they are listening to the financial report. So there you go. I'd like to thank the officers for this report and extend to my compliments on the new format of the report. Again, I've said that before, but it's very readable and it provides greater transparency and clarity, and I think it's a great step forward for this council that is getting on with the job of reforming the financial aspects of this council, and transparency is one of them. The report makes it very clear that as of the 30th of December 2022, council has total cash of $94.33 million, of which $37.05 million is funded by borrowings. The unrestricted and unallocated cash position of council is $20.99 million, which is significant improvement from the $4.7 million as of the 30th of June 2022. Much of this benefit has come from a review, a review of the capital expenditure program, and I thank the executive for the work they're doing in that area. The organisation is seeking to ensure that capital works programs are viable and are funded in the year in which they are undertaken. The practice of extensive carry-over funding is at an end, and this is welcome. Council's end-of-year surplus is predicted to be $14.1 million, an improvement of $2 million, and this come about from increased rates of deposits, but also from the sale of laneways, and also tighter employment management. Any surplus is necessary to fund the council's capital works programs and restore its reserves and balance sheet. The Monitor's report has remarked that council is not financially sustainable and that the necessary reforms will be required. As part of the Monitor's recommendation, council is now required to report annually to the Auditor-General in its progress towards sustainability, and council's long-term financial plan is to be delivered later this year. As part of the conversation around sustainable financial plan, we as a community will need to have important and sensible conversation around cost recoveries, divestment and upgraded technology to provide for the ever-increasing demands on council services and responsibilities. I commend this officer's report.
Thank you, Councillor Landers. Councillor Mohammed.
I'd just like to thank the officers for the great work that they've done, and I'm just going to echo what Councillor Herschel said. Thank you.
Thank you. We go to a vote. All those in favour? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Dennis. The next item we have is 7.5, which is the enhancement to grant making administrative policy and future staged review of the community grants program. Councillors, do you have any questions for Malcolm? I've got no questions for you, Malcolm. I'll look for a way forward. Councillor Mohammed will move it. Councillor Wade will second it. Councillor Mohammed, would you like to speak to the item?
Once again, I'd like to thank the officers, and community grants gives opportunities to the whole municipal community, people that want to do great things or move things to make it better for our community, and I think it's great that we have that, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wade.
Yeah, echoing that, and also just saying it looks like it's, you know, one of the things we've been talking about, financial sustainability and looking at what our grants are doing. Are they working? Where are they going? There's a it's been interesting to look at them all at once, because we often see them in bits and pieces, and seeing if they're achieving the best things for our community, because we know it's important to our ratepayers where their money goes. So really looking forward to learning more about it and seeing what you come back with.
Thank you. All those in favour? That carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item we have is Thank you, Malcolm. The next item we have is 7.6 Governance Report, March 2023. We have no registrations. Councillors, do you have any questions to Mr. Thomas? If not, Councillor Bryan, you'd like to move a motion?
Yes, I have a further motion, which is...
Alternative motion?
An alternative motion, sorry, I'm reading off my sheet. So the alternative motion is basically to include the removal of prayer from council meetings into the point 3, that council endorsed the following motions for submission to the Municipal Association of Victoria, MAV State Council, to be held on the 19th of May 2023, as detailed in attachment 3 and tabled.
Thank you. Councillor Bryan, do we have a seconder? Councillor Mohammed is seconding. Councillor Stone, you have an amendment?
Yes, I do, but I can't find it.
Oh, I can send it to you. Is it what you sent around?
Oh, sorry, I've got it in hard copy here. One moment. Thank you. So it's to amend Clause 2 that Council endorse the following motions for submission to the ALGA National General Assembly, as detailed at attachment 1 and as tabled: A, move to a circular economy; B, partnering for climate action; and C, partnering for biodiversity protection. And those motions were circulated.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien, would you like to accept that?
Yes, I would, thank you. I accept the amendment from Councillor Stone.
Thank you. And Councillor Mohammed, would you accept Councillor Stone's amendment as the seconder? Okay, so Councillor O'Brien, would you like to speak to it?
Mayor, just before Councillor O'Brien speaks, I wonder if I might prevail on her to insert the names of the Business Advisory Group recommendations, and I can read them out if that would be of assistance. They would be Nick Campbell, Maz Azarakis, Zhu Zhao, Sebastian Passanetti, Helen Haynes, James Richardson, Samantha Rush and Luke Phillips.
An auspicious bunch, thank you. Okay, so just to basically speak to the motion and the amendment that I'm putting forward, basically quite some time ago a group of councillors had some discussions and around the inclusion of the Lord's Prayer in council meetings, and basically we sent an open letter to the Premier, the Minister for Local Government, Minister for Multicultural Affairs, the Victorian Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commissioner, the CEO and board of MAV, and the CEO and board of VLGA. Basically, in that letter, that open letter, it talks about that these practices are a matter of some controversy. Some councillors object to being compelled by the council's governance rules to participate in a religious ritual as part of their role. Freedom of religion necessarily includes freedom from religion. Some councillors take exception to their council having an official prayer derived from the traditions of a single religion, pointing out that this is inconsistent with the multicultural and multi-faith diversity of the communities that we represent as councillors. The practice excludes the non-religious and adherents of minority faiths. Some councillors oppose as a matter of principle government organs that as councils being anything other than neutral in matters of religion. And it was that some other work was done, that there has been some peer-reviewed legal research that suggests that that it's not actually, it could possibly potentially be illegal under the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act, and further that the Local Government Act does not require the inclusion of prayer in council meetings. So I would like to strongly encourage my colleagues to support this motion to take to MAV, and the motion is basically that the Municipal Association of Victoria write to its member councils advising that the MAV supports the removal of prayer from council meetings on the grounds that a council prayer no longer reflects community expectations, is not inclusive and may be unlawful. And I'll just add to this that in the near future another letter will be circulated to all councillors across Victoria, so others are more than welcome to put their names to this request.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Councillor Mohammed, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think Councillor Bridget said it very well. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Wade.
Just very briefly to compliment officers, and I think it's Mr Thomas on the pickup that in the MAV electoral representation one, which is that the panels currently aren't empowered with all of the tools they need, and I think that was a really good thing to notice and good thing to advocate for, so wanted to pay my respects to that.
Thank you. Any other councillors? If not, we'll go to a vote. All those in favour? That carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr Thomas. Next is notices of motion. I have none listed. Councillors, do you have any petitions and joint letters to table? Okay. Questions without notice. Councillor Landis.
Thank you to officers. In respect of waste pickup schedules down in Cremorne around the Swan Street area, there is a problem with bins, a Monday morning pickup, in respect of people putting their bins out on Friday. They're out all weekend, and they tend to get sort of tipped over, and they become a bit of a nuisance. Have officers contemplated or looked at the idea of actually changing Monday to another day, maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday?
Mr Liebers.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Landers. The issue has been raised with officers. We've had some internal discussions and have raised it with our collection service, our contractor. It's not a simple thing to move, so I've requested a meeting with some of the internal stakeholders so that we can have a closer look at it. So it's in active consideration, and I'm very happy to come back to you once we've determined whether or not that is possible.
Thank you. Any more questions, councillors? If not, we'll go to the next item, which is delegates' reports. We have one from Councillor Stone from the Active Ageing Advisory Committee. Councillor Stone, would you like to speak to your item?
Yes, thanks, Councillor Wade, for keeping me in order here. It's just a very short report because a lot of our advisory committees haven't met for quite a long time because there was a very big gap between the end of the when it was expected there would be new delegates and when delegates were actually finally appointed. So the Active Ageing Advisory Group, an extremely well-informed and strong contributing group met very happily last week and discussed a number of issues. The three main ones were the national aged care reforms, which they've been kept apprised of and have kept giving us feedback on that. They were also, many of them work in the system, but they have experiences of the system and are observing, as is Yarra Council, the workforce issues in aged care. It's everywhere and it's quite concerning. They also wanted us to keep in mind our guiding principles that we adopted last year whenever we come back to consider the aged care reforms. They were very impressed with those principles. We also had a briefing, or they had a briefing on Yarra Leisure, the fees and the programs there. They had no recommendations or feedback particularly, but they were very interested in Yarra continuing to focus on health benefits of continuing to be active well into one's later years. They were invited to provide feedback on the renaming of the Collingwood Senior Citizens Centre. They were provided with 3 Wurundjeri names. It's spoken in Wurundjeri, and they expressed a preference for one that they felt they could probably speak most easily, and that also had a really nice meaning. And they all provided updates on their own experiences and their networks, which is really, really valuable for us in informing what we do in aged care and active ageing in Yarra. So I move that Council note this delegates report.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Do we have a seconder? Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Stone, would you like to add anything further to your motion? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Councillor Stone, for this delegates report.
Thank you. We go to a vote. All those in favour? That carries unanimously. We go to general business, and I have none foreshadowed. I also have none foreshadowed for urgent business, and also none foreshadowed for confidential business. That concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you very much to our one viewer who is still left tonight. Thank you. Thank you, staff, and thank you, officers, and thank you, councillors. Good night.